We lost the AC in the jail kitchen, over the weekend. We have been running around, trying to figure out a solution. Yesterday we got some large air movers and really honestly laughable. It's like a redneck air conditioning. We tried to blow the air movers over large, coolers full of ice, but the ice only lasted 10-15 minutes, so. Wow. And didn't make any difference, so. The way it's designed in there, the oven and the cooking equipment won't run without the fans running. So just this morning, we took the belt off the supply fan. So everybody's, all the artificial intelligence sees the fan running, but it's not supplying, it blows in straight outside air, but it's usually air conditioned. So a day like today, we're pumping in 87, 90 degree humid air. So we have the vent fan running, we have an air mover in the hallway blowing in the air conditioned air from the hallway. It's a kitchen, but I think it's better than it would be if we did nothing. We have a compressor. Basically, we shorted somehow over the weekend, the compressor to the air conditioner died. And when we blew a fuse, I think it ran on 2 phases for a while and burned it up. And when we replaced the fuse, it seized, which then tripped all of the air conditioning, all the equipment in the jail. We got that back running. The compressor should be here sometime, probably late next week. I think if we're giving it this afternoon, see how if what we just did makes a difference. There is a portable air conditioner available in Tewksbury, Mass, that we would go get. It's a United rental down there. They had 5 first thing when they opened this morning. They only had 1 left as of 9 o'clock. I don't know that one will be available by this afternoon. It's a gamble. Talked to the sheriff and his staff and they decided this is the path we'll take. So that's where we're at right now.
The manner in which you're now.
Yes, what we're doing right now is what was decided upon, knowing that if this doesn't work, that portable air conditioner might not be available.
Are there residential portable air conditioners at one of the box stores?
I could get a truck mounted air conditioner here, but you have to vent it to the outside. We'd have to poke a hole in the wall, which obviously you don't want to do in a jail. The beauty of this portable at United Rental, it's a water cooled air conditioner. It doesn't have to vent outside. So you hook up a garden hose and it just drains to the floor drain. I don't have an exact price, but they're one about the same size of what we have in the kitchen now is about $8,000. So it might be that we consider buying one in the future. We could use it anywhere. We could use it in anywhere you could hook a hose and a drain. Something to think about in the future. But as of right now, I went in there 20 minutes ago and it does seem a little better than it was this morning.
I assume with preparation of various foods, there's a humidity issue there.
Well, yeah, and plus blowing the humid outside air doesn't help, and the ice thing didn't help either. You know, that water.
Would a dehumidifier of some size help?
Possibly. I don't know if they're large enough to handle that space and the amount of humidity we have in the air.
The fact that you're attempting to resolve the issue and working with them.
We're trying anything, yeah.
What is the temperature?
I don't know. It's 87 outside. It's gotta be over 100. I mean, it's a
Can they
kitchen.
change the menu when we're
They're
serving?
not using, for whatever reason, they ran the steam kettle and an oven this morning, but most of the meals have been pulled.
Oh, okay. So it's just the compression that's making,
Yeah.
the refrigeration equipment is generating the heat in there.
So the-
Yeah, it's just, well, the dishwasher
Right,
and things, it's like no other kitchen, any other kitchen, in a restaurant and things, it's not the most comfortable environment on a good day, so.
One of the other reasons I asked Brian to bring this up is, as he said, this portable unit is in, Tewksbury, Mass.
Yeah.
And which is outside the state travel, which is generally supposed to be permission of the commission. It was $1,000 each way to ship it. So our thoughts was it's much cheaper and more effective to go down and get it and take it back. So if that's,
Pick up
if-
truck or?
yeah.
Yeah, it'll fit in the back, it's not much bigger than, that podium.
So if that's the option that we face, just wanna make sure that we have the consensus or agreement
Yeah,
about
on that
continue.
link, train of thought, why is it taking so long for the compressor? Can we go someplace and pick up this compressor that we're waiting?
It was in fact the only one they could find, the shortest lead time was one, a supply house in Texas.
Is this Powell? Who does that work, Powell?
Mechanical.
A mechanical.
Mechanical has been doing all of this for us, yeah.
Yeah.
And Scott and I talked, we may have been sending someone to Texas, the night, I don't even know what today is, to be on Monday, the closest one was 14 days. So they found one Monday night or Tuesday morning that was 7 to 10 days, that's the one in Texas. They have expedited things from this supply house, but 9 out of 10 of those shipped items have shown up damaged. So we don't wanna wait, even 3 days and get one damaged and then have to search for another one. So it's already on a truck, it's on its way here. Yeah, we've been, Peter from Mechanical Services, and I have been on the phone with people constantly. It's been
So you're saying to acquire our own version of this water cooled system would be approximately $8,000.
I believe so. I don't have an exact price. That's what Peter, from Mechanical believes it costs about 8,000. And but just in the jail, for instance, there are several areas where it would be useful. Our equipment is well past its useful life. We have more, in the summertime, we have more chilled air leaking out of the fans on the 4th floor than actually making it down into the space. In the wintertime, it's heated air. We've done we've done a bunch of patching and repairing over the last couple of weeks. This stuff was all installed in the mid-80s and, for whatever reason, it's not in great shape.
And we are still investigating what the replacement of the HVAC system will cost.
I don't know what the compressor, I don't know what the cost of the
I'm
compressor
talking
is.
about we had set aside money, had we not, for HVAC?
That was for this
For
building.
this building.
Yeah, that's gonna be open in a few minutes.
We did, a year or two ago, we looked at it in the jail. It would be in the range of 9 to 12 million. And the bigger problem actually is you'd have to take the roof off the building.
Right.
Or a good portion of it to get the old equipment out. And just the logistics of, trying to remove equipment and install new while operating the jail.
Hmm.
I don't know how that would be a
A challenge.
challenge, yes.
No, it would be a nightmare.
Yeah, we.
Well,
Challenges
made
being
some
too
pretty
high.
significant investments, a couple of years ago, didn't we? Or
We have,
about a year ago with that,
we've
to avoid full rebuild of it, but.
We've tried to do, some significant PM and, some maintenance on, the dampers, the heating and cooling dampers.
Right.
The problem is, whether it's winter or summer, all of the, they don't seal as well as they should. or may have ever. So we're always mixing hot and cold. And, we've done some seal repair, but it would be a significant challenge. We'd have to, again, there's no way to get new dampers up there without a crane and cutting a hole in the roof. And the whole thing, they're in a bad spot. They're some of the equipment you can't get to unless you crawl on your hands and knees or your belly. It is a challenge working up in that area.
It's a building that's outlived its life years ago. So
It has,
that'd be- yeah,
it's it's very difficult to make that building comfortable
right,
any season.
yeah. So again, if we do go that route, that option of going down to Tewksbury, are the three commissioners in approval of that?
Yes,
We would approve that for the state travel.
Because I'm thinking probably by 1 o'clock, you ought to have your answer as to whether, I mean, with that heat out there and the way it's going.
Yeah, they're talking with Lieutenant Raymond, they're gonna check a few times during the day.
Yep.
If it's still available, we were gonna leave at 5 in the morning, to go pick it up.
Right,
And, to try to beat some of the traffic.
Yeah.
On the way back.
yeah, but you could always, give them a call this afternoon and see if the,
yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if it is still available, and the
Yeah.
likelihood that it is slim.
Yeah.
But if it is, and we want it, we'll call them, I'll give them the credit card or whatever to hold it, and we will go get it, first thing in the morning.
If you were to do that now and give them the credit card to hold it, would there be a fee if you canceled?
I don't know, I haven't spoken to them directly, it's all, Peter Newmeyer from Mechanical has been
I think
he's
that
been,
would be,
I would think again, I think by the time, we get through this and by the time maybe you mosey over there and take a look, that within the next hour or so, you give them a call to find out if it's available. If not, even give them a call and talk to them and say, can you hold it for an hour?
yeah,
Well, I'll give you an answer by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock and, yeah,
they did have that conversation this morning.
okay,
They didn't want to hold it, but they did because they've worked with, they do work with mechanical
Right, yeah.
already, so.
Yep.
and I think it would be in our best interest to investigate
Yep.
the acquisition of one of those two. I mean.
Yeah, they're not large. We could, if you never need it, I think it's still money well spent. Because, it's, even in some of the housing units in the jail right now, I can't get the temperature, within state standards.
If I believe correctly, you said it might be a couple of grand just for the rental, for a couple of weeks rental, so,
Buy it outright.
if we, yeah, I mean.
What
even
is,
price-
it's portable, how big is this?
I believe it is not much bigger than that podium,
Okay.
probably, another foot or two high.
And
maybe a
what was
foot
that,
wider.
what was the price for that, Brian?
To do what now? Buy it, rent
Purchase.
it? I believe it's around $8,000.
But it's still gonna be a while.
Yeah, it's better to buy it right
Right,
and
if
keep
we
it
bought
and
it-
need it.
It would be about a month before we saw it,
Right.
if we bought it.
Yeah.
You got this week.
Nobody really keeps stock anymore.
What are we building with Rivertown or?
Get the figures and then, yeah.
All right, I just don't wanna wait another 2 weeks.
Yeah,
to
right.
get 'em out.
We need to work with some
I agree.
dispatch on this thing here.
I agree.
I would,
Well, we're doing everything we can at the moment. We've got, everybody, our contractors helping us. They have people here working on the AC issues right now. The people in the office are dead. There are probably a dozen people that are just
I'm talking
helping
about
us.
committing the finances to get the
Yeah.
job done. And that requires action without.
so you have authorization from the Commission for Out-of-State Travel to acquire that if necessary, but I think it would be appropriate, I would entertain further discussion from the Commission on acquiring one of those water-cooled units for the county to own. Do we want to take action on that?
I would say we put our.
I think, yeah, we'll take a look and see what we're up against and we gotta find out,
I'll get a quote
yeah.
and,
Do we get it through Mechanical Services?
I can ask him to do that right now.
Well, in that event, we would be working with an existing contractor.
Yep. I would say, I would recommend, let's get a price first, and then go from there. If we can, if we give us some idea.
But we're not waiting till the next meeting to make our decision, correct?
So there's no rush on this, is another issue we're gonna need, we're gonna get the rental that's.
You're gonna get the rental, take care of the current issue,
Yeah, I
but,
mean, another issue could come up.
yeah,
Well, what he's indicating is we have sections of the jail right now that don't meet state standards for temperature.
correct.
Certain times.
Correct, well, but you'd be making a decision without all the information right now, so that's, I think that's the best we can do. I can email you, and if you choose to make a decision and verify it later, that's up to the commission, or we could have a Zoom meeting to, if it, if this turns out to be an urgent need. But I think by the time we get the information, take a look at it, and then bring it to you, we're probably approaching the 2030.
We should have the compressor sometime middle to late next week. It'll take a day, but after it gets here, it'll take them a day to install it. The kitchen will be resolved by the end of next week, I hope, I believe. The issues elsewhere, we are continue, they've been here every day for the past week, and it's a struggle, but we can get by. So it's not like we need one of these things tomorrow. Well, we do, but the rental will suffice. But to buy it would be great to have it because of things like this that, and it was a power issue, I believe, that caused it.
Let me work with Brian to get the information, and we'll go from there.
That's,
If we need to call in
Or not to
a
exceed
Zoom
10
meeting
grand.
to go over this, we can do that.
I don't wanna be in the position we've been in the past. We know that this building is
Yep.
antiquated and is.
Yep. Yep.
I don't think anyone in this room would question whether or not temperature is gonna get warmer in the next
Right.
month.
No, and that's exactly, in my opinion, that's exactly what we're gonna do.
And right now, we know it's a month. It could be 3 months if we
Right.
wait 2
And
more weeks.
if we have the rental, we can extend it. Once we get the kitchen fixed, we can keep it on hand. And,
Till we get the
It's
actual,
gonna be
our
tough for them
own.
to come and repossess it.
right, I mean, yeah, possessions, I don't know how many times.
I'm just saying,
9/10 of the law.
I just don't wanna have another discussion in August about the fact that we've gone 6 weeks with.
We're not,
Okay.
we're not,
All right,
Get a big agenda.
yeah,
yeah, we got some big problems too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Next item is the RFP opening.
yep,
for
I think you just have one.
HVAC. Yep,
Yep.
We have
Speaking
one.
of temperature, did you warm in here? I've seen a couple. This one was black and it was ice cold when we first came in, so let me just wait to make sure we shut it
This
off.
one here is,
So we have one bid related to the HVAC project on the county courthouse building. This is from Mechanical Services. They have provided me with
That's all I have.
cost for this proposed work shall be $1,753,000, $53,130. Based on the fact that you have diligently tried to get other quotes, I assume this was the only success?
We had 3 people show up for the walkthrough, 3 different companies. I emailed everybody, no one, the other 2 companies never responded. I reached out to a 4th company when I posted the RFP, they did not respond. So,
So based on, and you have had a good working relationship with this vendor.
they earn their keep by far, yes. They're one of the best, mechanical contractors I've ever worked with. In my,
What is the pleasure of the commission at this point?
Well, I know we only had one bid, but I'd be more comfortable, and that they're a good firm, and I'd like to have us review this and what we expect to pay. And I think if we can review and make sure it meets all the specifications.
So they had proposed this about a year ago. We've been trying to get this done for quite some time. And prior to the RFP, they sent us a price. Since then, originally it was just this building and we weren't gonna touch certain areas. One being the UT dispatch and annex. Well, we've since included all of that. So this proposal here now will replace, we will have all brand new HVAC equipment except in the jail.
How come originally we weren't talking about those others? Yeah.
We felt that, these other systems were new enough where they didn't need to be replaced. But since feeling that, the system in the UT failed this past week. And as the people in the probate offices will tell you, it's a constant battle to keep those people comfortable. Looking back into the history, we found that the equipment was a little bit older than we had first realized. So now that we have the opportunity to do it, I think it would be a mistake to not. Because if a year or two from now, we have to replace some of this other equipment, I don't know where we're gonna find the money.
So when did they anticipate if they were awarded the project? Have you had that discussion?
We have not. And quite frankly, we've just been, I intended to, but we've just been too busy putting out fires over there for the past few weeks.
Did they estimate what the time frame would be for completion?
Again, I don't know if, I haven't read that yet, but
Okay,
I don't know.
all right, so we want to take it under advisement is what you're asking.
Yes, the next meeting.
Okay, so do we have a motion to that effect?
So move.
Have a second? Motion and second to take the full bid under advisement. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye, unanimous. Franklin Street renovation project.
Thank you.
So that, the RFP is, I assume you have it in front of you, it's ready to go out. We have a limited set of contract, construction drawings. We are going to cover the rest of, or any holes in those drawings, we're gonna cover that with a very detailed written specification. And once it's ready, we're ready to go. I mean, we've recently, we've had Carmel Electric down there. We decided to remove all of the, originally, we took all the electrical and network and just put it up in the ceiling. Once we saw that, we realized that is a nightmare and nobody would be willing to take that on. So we've recently had them take all that out of there. So we're ready to go now as soon as we can post this and hopefully, I know a couple of the contractors that were hoping that would bid. I know they're busy doing other projects right now, but I would like to get that at least started before the summer ends and hopefully finished before the end of the year.
Any questions on the RFP as presented?
Oh, that's good.
Do we have a motion?
The way I move, we move forward. Right now.
So we have a motion to move forward with, people Franklin, with extending the RFP. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Is unanimous of those present. RFP for fencing, lower parking lot and lot storage area.
The three options that I provided to you last time, and basically, I'm asking folks to come in or I think the way I wrote it is, they don't have to show up, but It would be nice if they did, what prices on the three options and we'll go from there.
Questions on the RFP for the fencing and storage area?
Ready to go?
What type of fencing?
I asked for 8-foot chain link fence with a 12, depending on the option, if it's the larger area, I would ask for 2 12 to 14-foot gates, one in the front, one in the back. I think the only one, the smaller of the three options, I think only has one gate.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm just a little concerned about it. We think
333 square
it's
feet.
not decorative, and I don't think an 8-foot chain link fence is gonna keep anybody out, just gives them a little challenge to get in. Is
It's
that?
only gonna keep the honest people out.
Yeah, I mean, what's our objective of the fence, to keep people out?
Well, we're hoping to buy, so right now, EMA has a significant amount of equipment, dollars, in that lower lot. We're hoping to, facilities and the UT are gonna go together on a tractor.
Just thinking if we should treat the top of the fence like the jail fence, or so, or the, so it's, it's projected out and there's some different type
Well,
of
I mean,
material
yeah,
around it, so people can't actually get inside the fence. I mean, 8-foot chain link
Again,
fence, anybody wants to get in, I could get in.
I think the
Well, I
advantage
don't
of
know what-
having it down back is that you have 24-hour security on site, and if we have cameras.
Nobody, it's not gonna keep anybody out, just the people.
I understand that you have some intimate knowledge from the city side as to what happens in downtown Bangor at night. And I understand your concern, but if this is not going to be long-term, if we do successfully relocate some of these assets to another property when we build a new correctional facility, then this may be a somewhat temporary use of that space. What's the
don't know.
pleasure? I know, nobody's got a crystal ball right now.
We could add that, aspect of the RFP with the angle fencing going on. I mean, beyond that, then you're talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about barb,
Well, no,
or even just what the angle stuff. I think, yeah, if it goes beyond that, then I think the look is kind of.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think if, sort of very similar, Brian, I talked the other day about individuals we don't really want them spending the night up in the lot. Up the first thing that any law enforcement's gonna say, or our insurance company is probably gonna ask us, is if something happens down there, is why isn't it fenced in? And if we do have a fence, they're probably gonna say, well, why don't you have the angle? So, if the commissioners agree, I think we should add that to the RFP, that on the top, that it protrudes out 1.5, 2 feet.
Yeah, I don't
Is
think
that
it's
what,
a big.
I don't know what the,
we could talk to the fence
Must be
companies
a-
too and ask them to,
yeah, they must have a.
I think that would be a good idea while we're at it.
What's the pleasure of the commission on this RFP?
I'm fine if we add that
Move forward
a
with
little
it.
bit.
So we would move forward with the current RFP, adding that caveat.
Yep.
Thank you.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Thank you very much. Any other good news for us?
Well, I'll soon have, by next time I'll have another RFP for the furniture in the new DA's office space. I've just finished one to renovate that room.
This is the old commissioner's chambers.
The city of Bangor is, their Public Works was here last week to take a tree down that fell along the bank of the edge of the stream. We've asked them to take a couple of trees down in that lower section, that they should be here sometime next week. And we're also gonna take all of the trees and growth out of that riprap along Court Street. That's a designed, I finally spoke to the forester, and that's an engineered, wall and hillside. And it is not designed to have trees growing in it, so they will be removed. You should know, last week we tested our manual transfer switch. We did have some glitches and we found some things that need to be addressed, both in the jail and in this building. I will work on, it took much longer than we expected to get it going because we never used it before and basically had to learn how to do it. So we're gonna write a procedure for that. It worked great. So it was money well spent years ago. Hopefully we never need it, but we know how it works now, and if it's available or if needed, we know we could be dead in the water for about an hour if our generator fails. But knowing that, we can address things as,
What kind of backup does PRCC have if the generator doesn't go on for an hour?
they have their office they have an office up at
University College,
up at the Augusta, the Bangor campus of UMaine Augusta. They have an office up there that they would get going.
They give us the space for free.
I have no idea, but
Yeah, I know specifics, I know there's protocols, something like that happens.
I can't even read my own writing right here, but,
So Brian, with the manual switch, so if the generators don't go, they don't kick in, you have to use the manual switch, where's the power coming from?
so the CMD has promised that they could get us whatever we need within.
Oh, they bring a portable generator.
Yeah, it's a trailer mounted generator, and that's the hour that, they said, so it could be less.
So like Saturday night, 2 in, power goes out, the generators kick in. Who gets called? You get?
I would get called and then I would get a hold of CMD and.
But you'd have to come in and do the switch and.
Correct. We'd need an electrician and, but we would, and again, that will come when we have a written procedure to go through the steps of how we get from where we are to where we need to be.
Just a side note, what priority do we have if there were a massive failure of facilities to get a generator here? Do we have some understanding with CMD in writing that we have some level of priority?
Not at this time, but, I believe, EMA's Chris Fox and I have talked about that and, in the past, and, we can certainly, ask CMD if they're willing to enter into an agreement like that with us. To my knowledge, they're the local, vendor for generators of that size.
Before we need it, I don't know, Chris, if your agency colleagues have something of that nature, but if PRCC is not running, nobody else in the emergency world is in good shape.
Right, yeah, so Brian, like, Director McDonald said, we are talking about, developing an MOU with this vendor and also an MOU with this fuel supplier, so when there's an issue of, or to be a long-term situation, we would have priority in whatever that might look like for them.
Okay. I think that would certainly be something we'd like to see sooner rather than later.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That runs off propane and
Diesel.
diesel and, portable one, does that run off the natural gas or does that run off diesel too?
We used to have a tank in the garden, just put it up and down.
We used to have propane tank too, but I was going before I was.
Okay.
And lastly, the last, a few months ago, you approved a purchase of replacement plumbing material for the jail. And it turned out to be a little over $18,000. And somehow, when the invoice crossed my desk, I processed it and it was paid, but somehow it was paid a month or 2 or 3 weeks earlier than that, so we double paid them. I have recently ordered some replacement solenoid valves, and they've taken it off that total. We've ordered some stainless steel fixtures for the change-up room that have had porcelain fixtures, and that's a huge safety hazard. People in that change-up room are very angry, and they've broken faucets and come out swinging the faucets. And if they ever came out swinging a piece of porcelain, it would be not good. So that will come off that total. I'm asking if it could be approved that we order whatever the remaining total is, if I could order more supplies, more plumbing supplies to that total. Or would you rather receive a check back?
What is our budget for that line?
Do you know an estimated amount of that, the balance that's left over?
So
Talking 10, 12, 15 grand or?
right now, it was 18,421. After the solenoid valves, it's 17,850. The fixtures, the two stainless fixtures totaled just over 2,500. So that would bring it down to 15,300.
I would ask that you bring me a list of what you'd like to continue to purchase under that, of the intent to
We
use
do
these
need more
funds.
of those
And-
double.
We do, but I need to look at the budget that we had for this project, and then I think we can determine if the commissioners will let me take care of that.
Yeah, I think you should,
I think that's what I'm,
This is
yeah.
the regular vendor that we use for,
and we've got whatever that credit balance is, just debit these new,
Yeah, if it's outside,
charges, and then if there's a balance, then.
Either way,
can-
if they need to be changed or not, I think we should just get the money. I'd rather have, the county should have the money rather than the vendor. I mean, I know it's our mistake, but I think we should get the money back and. Nice stuff.
I'm in agreement, and I think that's why I need to, because I'm thinking that the expenditure that you're talking about was double, was sort of pushing the budget itself, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Also,
We can work over that.
we are, I'm not trying to twist anyone's arm with what we've been buying are single cell units and double cell units, and we are out of the double. So, I would be coming to you in the next meeting or two asking for more, so, but I'll get that total and I'll see how many that would give us, and I'll have that next time.
Yep.
Or I'll bring it to Scott and.
Yep.
if he's gonna do it.
Please bring it to me, yeah.
I think that's probably the prudent course of action.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Nice job on the RFPs.
I think so.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
We do, Chair, I just want to point out, we do have the parties for the
I was gonna
Enfield.
indicate out of respect if George doesn't mind, we will take this a bit out of order because we are past the 11:30 projected time for deliberation and decision on the Moyes Memorial versus
Thank you, Chair.
Enfield. 6-3 was the date I believe of the hearing.
Yeah.
So if, what's the pleasure of the commission? Do we need any further information, or are you ready to have you deliberated and are you ready to make your decision on this?
We still have packets on.
You had a book.
Yeah, I had my book and I left it at home. I reviewed that this weekend and didn't bring it with me. I had some notes in that.
Oh, you want to refer to your notes, or?
I think I'm okay, but go ahead.
I have my book here if anybody wants to look at it,
Yeah,
but
well, I had highlighted some of the salient points that I think we were gonna address. But I think I can recall it.
Mine is not. I don't know where it is, but David and I took our books home.
Yeah, I have mine, it's on my desk.
So your book may be up.
Yeah, so two of you want to get started.
Okay.
First time, sake of time, yeah.
So Commissioner Marshall,
I need to see your book.
Oh.
Just,
well, based upon my review, there are certain criteria that communities use in establishing valuations. And while there were some points made by the plaintiff, my opinion in this case is that the manner in which valuations were applied and the manner in which the information was shared with us. While we may not like the valuation increases, it is pretty clear that this is a fairly broad-based occurrence that's happening as markets have forced towns to reevaluate. So at this point, I would not be in a position to accept the request of the plaintiff. I would be voting to deny.
Yeah, I would say, I think the plaintiff had a very comprehensive presentation. It was a very good presentation they gave us. They looked at a lot of other parcels on the same body of water. But, and I know it was a little more confusing in this case, because when the town had the revaluation done, the initial value that was placed on this lot was wrong, and they corrected that. And then this appeal is based on the new valuation that was put in place, and the property owner is still not happy with that. But it's clear that part of this property is in tree growth tax, and part of it is not. And there was some discrepancy about how is it valued, what's in tree growth and what's not. And I think the town, presented a case. It's, and these types of cases, the burden of proof falls on the property owner to prove that this is erroneous evaluation. I don't think they met that burden. It's a hard burden to meet. And I think they looked at other properties. If they had an outside independent valuation done of their property, that would have carried a lot of weight with me. But just to say, well, this guy's property is this value, and this one's this, in relation to this, and his was in tree growth, I just don't think they met the burden of proof.
Commissioner Marsh.
It was, I looked at a couple of things. Of course, the burden of proof is on the plaintiff. The standards, that they have to meet are set in law. I looked at the process used by the town did not seem out of ordinary. I saw no salient, errors on their part. The problem, I think, is that the new valuations experienced here, and as we're gonna see experiencing throughout the unorganized territories, is going to have a raise eyebrows for everybody. But looking at the past discrepancies that the plaintiffs raised, I think this new valuation is, as far as I've been able to determine, does not seem out of step or out of character with acceptable practices that are set in law. And I understand that everybody's concerned about it, but I see no procedural error on the part of the town in processing this application.
At this point, we would take an official vote if there's no further discussion.
I would move to deny the appeal.
I have a motion to deny the appeal.
Second.
I have a second on that.
Do we need any findings, just a straight motion, or we get any findings that you write it up?
I write it up, but if you want something specific, I think, yeah, I kind of mold this all into one. Yeah, that you'll review before signing.
All right,
And then afterwards, they get a copy.
both the town.
Yep.
Okay. All right, with that, we appreciate the time and effort that
Can we
we
take the actual vote?
We are going to take a vote.
Going to.
We appreciate the time and effort put in by both parties. This is obviously a frustrating issue that is affecting many citizens now. At this point, all those in favor of denial of the motion? Aye. 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 It is unanimous of those present.
Thank you.
And we will, for the next meeting, have a
Yep.
copy here.
Yep.
At this point, we will reverting the agenda to the UT update. Good morning.
Good morning.
Got a couple things on your agenda.
I appreciate the comfortable seats. Are you trying to hurry us out of here? There's spikes in there still.
Finally, move right along.
Moving right along.
First up on the agenda is the cannabis ordinance. We had the public hearing a while back, and you asked us to review some legislative actions that were being reviewed at the state. They've, of course, adjourned their, or at least left the building. I don't know how
They've
they.
adjourned, sign and die, so we're
Signed and
taking a
died,
while.
so they've adjourned, so that changes the outlook of the four bills that was cannabis related. After talking to the Office of Cannabis Policy, they also don't know the total result of what's gonna happen with that, whether whether the governor signs those bills or vetoes those bills, or they just move through on their own until next January when they reconvene. So at this point, there's no change to our ordinance based off what we know to be, current law. And to wait 3, 4, 5 months for the legislature to make up their mind what they're gonna do, or the governor to make up her mind if she's gonna sign or not, isn't fair to the residents that have asked us to opt in. Several months ago, you asked us, we brought forward to you the possibility of opting in, what our responsibilities were. We had a lady from the Office of Cannabis Policy zoom in and answer all of our questions. At that time, you appointed Dina and I to move forward with legal representation to opt in. So we're here today to hope that, the top 3 articles on our agenda are all relative to that.
All right, so at this point, we have a hearing, the results of the hearing, which were 6/17. We have the adult use cannabis opt-in form, discussion and approval, and the cannabis establishment, which is the review of the application and fees that you have prepared for it. So we'll take these individually. At this point, we've got the hearing. There were no folks that I recollect that spoke in opposition.
Nobody spoke in opposition or, for it in positive for it, so.
So that would lead us then to the adult use cannabis opt-in form.
The reason we wrote the form is so that it's an official opt-in that we can send to the Office of Cannabis Policy and the LUPC, so they can have a copy of your minutes along with the actual form signed that you opted in on this particular date for that particular allowance.
Or I would entertain a motion related to how we will address the opt-in thing. So we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Further discussion on the form, which will allow any of the unorganized territories or townships to have licenses issued for recreational adult use.
For adult use, medical use, for retail, cultivation, manufacturing, and testing facilities.
And that is what is before us. What is the pleasure or what questions, if any, does the commission have on the form?
All of the state, correct?
Yes, yes, it's pretty much cookie cutter to some of what our lawyers have done for other organized companies.
Yeah.
We just changed it to suit our names.
And this is just for medicinal,
No, this is recreational adult.
Recreational adult use.
but medicinal is included in this,
No, this is recreational adult.
just
use.
recreational.
I think there's a different set of standards for medical.
It's adult use.
That's what I'm looking for.
But medical is already handled by the Office of Cannabis
Yeah.
Policy. We already have a medical
I know
use
we have
facility
that
in the
second
unorganized
state
territory.
law.
So this is addressing the new standards that were put in place when we passed adult use by referendum.
Right.
So medical is already permitted and is existing in some format within the territory.
Medical, yes.
Right. So, any further discussion on the opt-in form? Are we ready for the vote? All those in favor of approving the opt-in form as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. And
Next
then,
thing on the agenda is basically your application fee. We talked a little bit about whether we want to accept those prices. I'm not opposed to the prices. I just want to make sure that if this is the application form, because it will be going out shortly, if we approve this is the application form. Are those prices,
Those are the same prices we saw last month,
Yes.
right? Were you gonna check with like some other areas or?
these are the
I would leave
prices that
Redmond, which
most organized towns have accepted.
yeah, wasn't there one or two that you thought maybe it was a,
That was the cannabis store for 5,000. The Piscataquis County does it by square footage. They do two, if you've got less than 2,000 square feet of store space, then they drop it to $2,000 for your original permit. If you've got more than 2,000 square feet of store space, they put $3,000. They just kind of broke it up for size of the facility.
okay.
Based upon the volume of potential traffic that we might see. Compared to proximity in parts of Piscataquis, probably is more logical to remain consistent. It doesn't require you to go up to the tape measure and measure.
No, that's the glory of some of this, is that it's like the liquor license. We're not required to enforce the rules. We just need to present those rules to you and have you agree that that facility can still operate.
Refresh me on where the revenue from these license fees goes.
We haven't made that determination yet. Right now, the $10 we get for liquor licenses each time, goes into our, Department 14 revenue. So this would greatly help some of that. Our time involved in this, might be slightly more than a liquor license, but we won't know that we've experienced it a couple of times.
Move approval of the fees as presented.
Okay, have a motion, have a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Fire agreement, Town of Alton, discussion and approval.
We had a fire-only agreement with the town of Alton for Argyle Township for the last 3 years with no increases. It was $12,100. And they've done a great job. They've been great to work with. Tina and I went and met with them some time ago now, and we've come to the agreement. They wanted like a 15% increase, over the 3 year, a new 3 year contract. And we've got them to do it over a 5% each year, rather than 15 upfront. So, slight give and take from both sides. It's fair. It's a $600 increase, this coming year, which is fair enough, for the services they offer, so.
Do we have a motion regarding the fire agreement with the Town of Alton?
I move we approve the fire agreement town hall.
Second.
Have a motion, a second, further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And the administrator will sign on our behalf.
Thank you.
Ambulance agreement, Town of Lincoln.
We've got an ambulance-only agreement for the township of Drew, the new township. Lincoln covers that. We've been trying to get Lee to help us work with that, because Lee would be a much closer ambulance service, but they're not willing to take that on at this time. So Lincoln is still available to take it on, but last year, we agreed on that there was 35 people living there. They do everything by per capita in Lincoln on their contracts. And they were $100 per capita last year. They want $155 per capita this year. So we saw an increase, of about $1,900 in the contract.
55%.
So,
It's good to see the collaborative effort that Lincoln is offering in that area.
we're still in the middle of trying to work out a contract for fire and ambulance for T2RA out on the interstate, but, we haven't got those papers back yet.
All right, do we have a motion related to the ambulance agreement with the Town of Lincoln for the newly formed Drew Plantation?
I move we approve.
Have a motion, have a second, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Transfer station, Kingman and Prentice Township, Town of Mattawamkeag.
We've been very fortunate, because we used to have curbside recycling in Kingman and Prentice many years ago when we started our solid waste curbside pickup. And, very few residents ever used it. I think at the last, there's 4 residents using our curbside pickup, so we abolished that. And went and made a contract agreement with Mattawamkeag, a neighboring town, to use their recycling center. It's, $200 a month. It has been $200 a month for many years now, since I think 2017, so they've asked for a small increase. We've agreed to it, but we've also made some changes to find out how many of our actual residents are using their facility. We're gonna start now handing out, paperwork, so that we know at the end of the year if there was 8 people or 18 people that used the facility, so.
Do our people use a sticker? Are they assigned a sticker for that purpose?
They will be
For
from
the
now on,
town?
yep, that's gonna help us track who's using it.
You like to choose the color on that sticker?
No, it's just,
It's a drop-off recycling center, so people have to pick up the materials and drive to Mattawampee with it. They don't know, Mattawampee doesn't know how many people are actually using it. So we're trying to find that number out. So we're gonna get another year out of it for a slight increase.
Okay. Great. And well, thank you for your work on that. Do we have action related to the transfer station?
Approval of contract for transfer station.
For Inman Prentice Townships.
and that won't be, yeah.
Have a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Hammond Ridge TIF project, update.
As you're aware that, Matt Polstein from New England Outdoor Center, has applied through LUPC and DEP to have the new Hammond Ridge expansion. His Hammond Ridge, has actually 4 nodes of expansion over the next 30 years. But, so his next expansion is this Hammond Ridge extension that he's doing now. We met with his lawyer and him and our lawyer from Redmond and Winchell and a consultant from Redmond and Winchell who wrote our last TIF project. She was great to work with. And we're basically reviewing whether we can have a TIF, if it's gonna be feasible to have a TIF, because there's about 60% of the whole operation is residential, the new additions, and about, give or take 40% is gonna be commercial. So we can have a TIF on, from what we understand, on the commercial side of it, and it makes some sense. However, we don't know now, they're drawing up some papers as to what it would cost us to set that TIF up and how it would be ironed out. So we don't have any of those answers right now. I just wanted to let you know that we're moving forward with the reviewing the possibility of having a tax increment finance program, and have those monies used for fire, ambulance, solid waste and law enforcement.
Right.
For the most part, but I'm sure there are other parts of a tax increment finance that we have to have state law would require us to also include other implements in that. But that's our main focus, is to use those monies up in that area.
So is this also going through mainstream? If it were to be established?
If it were to be established, I would think we would want to, may not have to, it may be a lot smaller situation than what we have, with the wind farm. We'll know that for sure. But, it would make some sense if it was big enough that we'd have to have them involved. But I'm looking at it more like we would control where the dollars go. And it may or may not be an application process. We won't know till we get down there either, till we get that far. So it's in its infancy, but we did want to move forward without you guys at least giving us the straw poll that it's worthy to look into and spend a few more dollars, with lawyers' fees.
So does the applicant cover the legal fees on our side, or are we eating that?
We're in the middle of that negotiation now.
Okay.
I think that needs to be determined, as George and I spoke, before it really gets too much deeper.
Yeah.
There should be a
This
service
becomes more
reimbursement
complex.
agreement.
Yeah.
And these are UT dollars, so these money should be coming out of UT. So for now, as I spoke with George, who's kind of recommended finance, kind of put it in an AR account, a holding account, until we get the agreement. My experience has been, that when it comes to finalizing and the money starts to flow, that sometimes that's the time when things are paid off, so. But we do need to have some sort of a conversation and develop an agreement for reimbursement of those fees at initial.
It would be interesting to me to see how much TIF money or investment that the county has made in some of those projects. I commend him on what he is doing up there, but I think it's incumbent on us to balance out what we're doing for an individual corporate entity.
Currently, it's $70,000 for a bike trail, came out of the TIF fund several years ago. Currently, that's the expense we've got in that area for him, in that township.
That's it?
So far. To help him with that bike trail.
Yeah, I do remember, I was fairly new, but I do remember that discussion. I just thought we had a couple other things.
The greater Millinocket area has a lot of things,
Out of TIF or?
mostly Harper, TIF.
Yeah, I think we're analyzing where our TIF dollars have gone, so we can provide the committee with better understanding as we go forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
We also talked about a CBA agreement,
Yes.
which is a little different. Dollars that are less restricted still have to be used in the area, but so,
There was 3 different agreements that
Yeah.
could fit this application, but, until we figure out who's paying for all the lawyers' fees,
right.
we weren't gonna move forward with any one of them, so we're still at that stage. So this is just an update for you that, make sure that you're still comfortable with us moving ahead with, some of those.
Any other questions? Okay, no, next item is the patent ambulance, TIF and PILT fund.
The TIF committee came to you last meeting and, recommended paying 60% of the overall ask of $46,000, so it's $28,112. Was gonna come out of TIF. And the caveat on that was that we would have a 3-year contract with patent ambulance that wouldn't exceed CPI increases. Patent ambulance service is going through the same thing that Old Town and East Millinocket, all the ambulance services in the area have done. They've got a committee of townspeople reviewing the overall cost of the patent ambulance. What does it cost? Because they've got several contracts with other organized towns, and they want to be sure that their overall cost is spread evenly and adequately across everybody's plane. So we're looking at an increase, slightly more, that's gonna be more than a CPI increase would be my expectation. They didn't tell me that, but if they're reviewing, it's because they're coming short on some ends. And all the contracts are gonna have to pick up the slack. So with that said, he can't accept the 28,000 that we offered him, the 60% of the ask because of the CPI increase, which was a long discussion in our last TIF meeting, was this particular truck and this particular application. It took most of our meeting to hammer out all the details. The TIF committee, at the time, was looking at why don't we buy the darn truck, own it outright, and then there's a way that we can, you know, if our contract doesn't stay, you know, we take our toys and go home, so to speak. It gives us some control we don't have now. But the TIF committee, a couple of them were worried about maintenance issues in the future. How are we gonna know it's been maintained? If we give them a truck, they don't have to do it, they don't even have to change the oil in it. Scott and I were talking briefly that there's a way to get around that. We can get maintenance records. We can make it part of our TIF agreement if we did something like that. But currently it stands that they can't accept the $28,000 because of the CPI increase. So our options are to change the way we purchase this vehicle, not to purchase it at all, or drop the CPI from the approval of the $28,000.
Which, what's the base we were talking about? How much for that? If we put that 3%, if we go away with 3%, what are we paying right now?
21,000
So,
for 1 year,
so,
for 18 townships,
right.
biggest amount of
If
townships.
they go 5%, you're talking $1,000. So this TIF committee didn't put that in place. It wasn't an afterthought of the commissioners that put it.
The TIF committee discussed it at length.
But when they came to us 2 weeks ago, they didn't have that.
They did, it's in the
They
back.
put
of
it in their
They
recommendation.
did.
Why did they put it in their recommendation?
Because they want us to control, because of what happened with ambulances in the past.
Yeah.
And they don't want us to spend a bunch of money to give to somebody and then somebody can walk away and drop out.
Yeah, without proprietary ownership.
We would own this and lease it to the patent ambulance service, is that?
We would own it lock, stock and barrel. So they have $10,000 to put into it. But, I mean, they can use that 10,000 for maintenance over the next 5 years. You can have a 5-year contract with them that we own that piece of equipment.
Put it in a replacement account, have that be part of the plan. I mean, that's what the commission has talked about with the TIF committee about longevity. And then at the end of 5 years, if they have money to move forward and replace a truck and they've done everything, then you basically turn the truck over to them if you wish. But they have a vested interest in other ways, longevity. And as far as maintenance, Tina can check in with them, you give quarterly reports. My first question would be is if you're really concerned about that, why would we buy them, why would we give them any money at all? If they weren't going to be responsible, and I think they would, I don't think that's really an issue. The question was asked, so I'm just providing answers.
Well, we experienced a difficulty with another community they contracted with us. They had some ownership changes and they canceled
Exactly
the
right.
contract.
Yes, this is what we talked about at that time.
So I think at this point, to me, my goal personally has been to find ways that we generate revenue back to the county that can be reserved for purposes of either repair or replacement of capital items. So I would be receptive to the idea of the TIF fund would buy the ambulance as opposed to the county. Is that what we're understanding? Maybe?
If I could speak to that. I'm gonna go out on that ever-loved limb of Pilt, but the Patton Ambulance Service is the only EMS service that services that monument. They've added that new scenic get-together place in there. I don't remember the name.
Visitor center,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
visitor center. And it's gonna really increase the visitation over there. So we're gonna have ambulance calls out there. So I don't wanna not help the Patton Ambulance Service. However, payment in lieu of taxes is supposed to pay for fire and ambulance and law enforcement.
And economic development? Yes.
It could, it's your call. That's the good part of that fund. That's why you guys won't let me have any of it, because you really, it's a fund, you guys can do what you need to do with it.
Well, we made some prior commitments with some of that money. which is
Yes.
why I bring it up. I'm not sure that I fully understood it. The one good thing that came out of that was an agreement for the commission to reserve at least half of the built money every year. So that if we had a year that we didn't get it, we weren't losing.
Yes, yeah, so 175 right now, thousand goes into the county, revenues. But again, so the PILT is, people I think are often confused that the PILT is money designated for a certain area. While, I agree, but they don't have to make the payment either. But again, there's a cost to services overall that are provided by the entire county, whether it be the sheriff's office, registry of deeds, probate, my office, all of them, so.
Not to belabor the philosophical difference.
No, but-
It is taxable land that has been removed from taxation.
Correct,
Which affects,
correct.
It affects everybody's tax.
Yeah.
True. So I looked at this like if it was 30% felt and 70% tip.
Yeah, I was
Buy
getting
the
some
truck
kind of
outright.
percentage arrangement between Pilt
Yeah.
and TIF. Would address the concern, of the monument, Pilt money, at least being attributed to the cost of.
It would only be, if you did it that way, their first original request with us was $56,000 and they'd come up with 10,000, so therefore they were asking for 46,000. And, that didn't cover lights and sirens.
They were using the 10,000 for that.
They were gonna use their 10,000, no, that was part of the original purchase price, that 10,000, and then he was gonna use some maintenance funds for.
But they had the money in their plan for the.
They had the money for lights and sirens. The hard part is if we own it, we should own the lights and sirens, that's all. So the total request would then be 58,000 for a ton truck to haul that big trailer with, and service that area, but,
We can still get it in Lincoln, the truck.
they'd still order it through Thornton Brothers, through that bid that we did a while ago. So it'd be 40,600 out of TIF, which the TIF committee would have no problem with. We were gonna do the whole thing, but we couldn't figure out the maintenance piece. And then, 17,400 out of Delta,
Give me those figures again, George.
40,600
40,600 out of what?
TIF,
And
17,400 out of Delta.
and that would fully outfit the truck.
Yes, lights, sirens. It would be their responsibility to insure, register, it, and maintain. it.
Yep.
And we'd have a contract stating.
So back to the question of ownership. Are you saying that the UT would own the
UT
truck?
would own that.
Would you?
But remember, the UT truck ownership is a county vehicle.
Understood. But I'm just determining what stake would Patton Ambulance have in returning some money to the county? I mean, they've authorized $10,000 of their funds for this. Would you see that being maybe a payment of a certain amount each year towards that as a lease that we could then hold in reserve accounts for future?
You could do it that way as well. To me, that's the investment. Their skin in the game is the establishment of a replacement fund. And, so they need a committing, I mean, here I see the town's committing to 10,000. At some level, that should, but that needs to, something needs to be developed, so there's an annual amount. So it's a $50,000 vehicle and it's 5 years, you're looking at $10,000 roughly. I mean, yeah,
How
and
do
if the
you,
county held that in escrow,
I mean, there's gonna be
the
some,
UT,
there's gonna be some value to that vehicle at the end of the.
There's
Sure.
a residual value at the end of the 5 or 6
yep,
years.
it sure is, yeah.
So what I'm
Yep.
looking at is how do we start a process that, so that we're not inundated with requests for public safety equipment? Because this is gonna be more and more of a challenge as we go forward, and I'd like to set some level of precedent so that we're providing the necessary services.
I think in the UT, this situation is they provide substantial services to the UT, correct?
The biggest issue we have is right now, they're the only option. It's like other ambulance services that service some of our contracts, we don't have another option.
Right.
So being the only option, we're at their mercy. If we had our own skin in their game by owning the pickup, this particular truck, it would give us a card to play that we have never had in the past. At least if they're gonna raise our contract, they need to at least take into consideration that, if we ever had another option, we
Right,
would take our toys and go home.
this is true, yeah. Yeah, and we talked about, it. I said, well, you know, why shouldn't the region be able to use that? So for instance, the Patton Fire Department needed the truck to be used. You know, it shouldn't solely be just for Patton ambulance. I mean, you know, not saying that Joe can't take it home for the weekend and I'll rush with it,
But if there is an
but again,
event,
right,
you know,
yeah.
like EMA helps in a number of cases, you've got
Right.
events that
Right.
go on, you know.
Right. What I wanted to also say, Chair, was part of your concern is that we're doing this in the UT, even though it is a municipality, this is, so it's not like we're opening Pandora's box for all other agencies, with organized agencies within the county, just, well, you bought, financed a truck for Patton, why can't you do it for us? This is related to the UT.
And it's strictly and solely related.
But that's why I think having some commitment that revenue is coming back gives us a pool of money to say to
Yep.
some of these people that are providing. If we only had somebody in the room that was working on collaborative services with fire and EMS.
I like the idea of us holding the escrow account. I like that.
If you would like to approach that with the folks in Patton to see if we can work out some quote lease arrangement with them.
So my vague understanding of that is we would take their 10,000 they were gonna put in towards the truck, hold it in escrow for the term of the contract.
Yep.
5 years, whatever the number is.
Yep.
Then, well,
Well, I would consider going back to the town of Patton and saying, we will purchase the truck and outfit it. And we will sign a 3-year, 5-year lease with you that will be owned by UT. You will pay an annual lease payment, so instead of having to cough up 10 grand up front, we set a annual lease payment that they could put into their budget.
$2,000 a year for the 10 grand.
Well,
But 10 grand is not gonna get you a new truck though. or
Mr. Froman, do you have
funds
any
for it.
thoughts you might like to share as we discuss this issue, or?
This is the first I'm hearing about this particular.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't wanna put you on the spot, but I think we have a pathway here that could help us with some of these collaborative efforts, so maybe you and George and Tina could put your heads together and look at what you might think would be a palatable chance. I'm thinking, if they didn't have to come up with 10,000 in their budget in 1 year for a small community, that might be appreciated. If they were over 5 years putting 3,000 a year, knowing that goes into a reserve account, and 5 years hence, that truck may be worth, let's pick a number, 25,000. And we've got that 15 or so thousand, now you're at 35. You sell the truck to somebody, whether Patton wants to buy it or somebody else. Just like an auto lease would be for a company or an individual, you've got an asset that has value that if it's properly maintained, they have a buyout clause at the end for a certain amount. And that gives us the money to continue this discussion. If you're talking to other communities that say, well, why can't you help us buy a fire truck? I'm trying to take some of the tension out of
Yeah.
the negotiation.
I think the annual amount is the way to go. It may not be 10 grand. You know, I just did it quick and, again, using the numbers you threw out, 58,000 minus, what do you say, 23? Residual value or book value at the end over 5 years is gonna get you roughly around $6,500. So again, I think that's where George goes and has conversations with the parties and see if they're even interested. If they say, no, we're not interested in that either.
And the other question would be whether the TIF committee, in this instance where they would have an asset that they're buying, consider a higher portion of the TIF money for future projects too. So this may take a little bit more digestion than what you want to do today, but if you understand the pathway we're on here.
And I understand where you're going with this, but I think you gotta remember that over half the communities that are gonna be served by this, they're in the UT, and you're putting an awful lot on the town of Patten. I mean, I think that's why they came and asked for the TIF money. I mean, I think we're going too far in the other direction, almost asking to pay for the whole thing at the end of the day. I mean, the 10,000, I think if they put that forward, they've already got it budgeted, just take the 10,000, put it in the account, move, I think. The
So what
proposal
happens
is
then?
about-
They're the only ones that deal
If
with
they cancel the contract,
Yeah.
We've got the,
They're the only ones that deal with
Well,
the
we'll have a
National
truck.
Woods and Waters Morning.
so wait, I get two conversations going here. So to follow up on Dan's point, if we buy the truck
right,
and the UT owns the truck, you don't see any need for an annualized payment from the town on that truck?
no, they're gonna give us, they're gonna take care of, they're gonna have a maintenance agreement with them, they have to do the maintenance on
They
it.
still have to do the maintenance, insurance.
Right, and we're gonna get the 10, and with the agreement, we'll get the 10,000 that they were gonna put in the truck.
And keep in mind, it's an important contract for us.
Right, exactly.
But it is also important that we create some mechanism to allow for this discussion to go on with other entities. You've got, what, 44
Which is,
townships that need to be covered?
which is another whole change in the TIP program again. Not just this particular project, but moving forward. If we're asking people to escrow money after we buy something of them, it changes our whole TIP program. And we have to have it in the application. They have to know ahead of time. Part of what the problem with this was, he was blindsided by that CPI increase. Understood on that.
Commissioner Marshall, did you have a comment you wanted to share?
No, I think there were a couple of options here, and I don't think either one of them are bad. I don't know, I have some concern, with, Commissioner Trumbull's, approach. But I see either one as acceptable, either approach.
We're kind of spitballing here. I think it would only be fair to George to give him a chance to maybe
Yep.
investigate some of this.
So this is simply out of the respect to the commission's desire to, you know, the concern of extending the money. I mean, you can certainly continue with the current program and fund part of it. They fund the rest or pay for the majority of it, and it's a one-time purchase. Then when the money's gone, it's gone. Then when, you know, then if the service is really of value, then it goes back to the taxpayer.
And that
Go up some later on, but
the
yeah,
short-term needs are had right now, but it
Yep.
doesn't resolve the long-term
correct,
problem that we've asked Paul to help us with.
right.
Is there's not enough resource to do everything that needs to be done out there, so we gotta get creative.
The other thing is, if we make a major change like a lease, we really need to have that in the application. That's one of the things that the TIF committee is gonna bring to you next time we meet, is some of these changes that we're requiring people, recipients to make, need to be in a signed agreement, an application. It needs to be part of what they understood when they signed up and asked for money.
Articulated in an agreement.
Right, not after the fact, like we're trying to do now.
I understand that, but we're trying to serve their needs, but also try and come up with a solution. that
Right.
solves
Which is a
problem.
change in the TIP program, which needs to be run through
I'm
a better
understanding.
process than this.
But fortunately, you've got some people who have fiscal background that might have better solutions.
Which is what I was hoping to tap into.
Do you have any other closing thoughts on this issue? Because we're not gonna solve it today.
No, I mean, we've talked about it before, and I know the communities that, you thought you could supply help in ambulance, not a total contract, so. It does make sense to have some stake in the game in UT when it comes to apparatus, although you don't buy a bunch of apparatus, but. A partnership that means you still have some stake in it, but someone else is responsible for the maintenance, and then as things change, or if there's bigger development there, you still have kind of skin in the game. But
Yeah. I don't question the logic, and I don't think my colleagues do, that they have been a good partner for us, and we would certainly like to find a way to work with them. But if this gives us a model, as Howland did, that can be used to educate other UTs or other communities, then we're not constantly faced with this. When we challenge it, we need a new fire truck and we don't have the money, so you do.
And Pat is true in a little island up there, where they're like, when I met with them before, a year ago, they were like, we'd be interested in talking to someone, but there's no one to talk to, because they're not themselves. So a partner is
I
part
mean,
of
this is to me, is a logical use of some of these resources because of the value that they provide in a very difficult area of service. But there's other areas that are maybe in closer proximity that if we can make use of some of these funds that are just sitting there rather than giving them away, I would like to investigate that first. All right, with that, if there's no other points we need to make, I think you understand.
Go back to the drawing board and come back again.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thank you for that. Thank you, Paul. UT Fall Tour.
I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to tour the Darrow landfill again. I've had an opportunity at least once a year now since quite a while. Through my work I'm doing with the Maine Resource Recovery Association. And, while there, I talked to the operations manager and several others about getting the Penobscot County commissioners and officers a chance to tour the facility sometime in the fall, maybe later in the year, when schedules free up a little bit. I didn't know if that was something you wanted me to pursue.
Do they do an annual tour still, or?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm not positive of that. Yeah, I hadn't asked that question, but, they were willing to give you guys your own personal tour, whoever wanted to go.
Pull the horn on the trash truck and all that?
Well, we could rent a bus, I guess, and get everybody up to the top of the landfill and answer all your questions. And then Scott thought it would be a good chance for us to maybe, see some other sites in the UT while we were at it.
Yeah, we keep talking about doing that, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe in September, October, leaves start to change.
Yeah, why don't we put out some potential dates, and
Yep.
then we can
Yep.
decide where to go.
So Peter and I'll do a little more work.
Great, anything else?
Only one last thing, the Central Maine Highlands Fire and EMS District Number 1 is having their first employee appreciation kind of open house.
Okay.
On June 12th, from 4 to 6, and you guys are all welcome. I think Mr. Marshall made
July
it vote.
I've already committed all.
On July 12th. Did I say June?
Yeah.
Yeah, we missed it.
It was a great event.
It was a good event,
They put the fire up, they put that to bed though.
But it's a good chance, they're gonna have a barbecue and what have you, it'd be a good chance to meet some of the employees. They're doing it from 4 to 6, because that's where shift change, so they can get the day shift and the night shift to be there at the same time.
Unfortunately, some of us will be in Philadelphia that week, but I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, and I
Yep.
think it would be great to have some. You said, Commissioner Marshall, you're already,
I've already got it on the agenda. Dan, are you going to Philadelphia or?
No.
I don't know. Maybe you come out and join us.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Tina.
At this point, we will invite our friends from PCHC who have patiently waited. Some fascinating discussions here, I'm sure. Thank you for joining us today. And you look very comfortable.
Yes.
Oh, we don't, no,
I've got some handouts if anyone's interested.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. what this is just a proposal that we accepted.
Oh, okay.
And a couple of floor plans on the back, and they help you.
You or Lori want to introduce your colleagues here today?
Yeah, I will allow my colleagues to introduce
Fair
themselves,
enough.
but I'll start. I'm Lori Dwyer. I'm President and CEO of PCHC, Penobscot Community Healthcare. And we're delighted to be here today.
Good afternoon now.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Swan, the Executive Director of Pearl Street. We're an anti-poverty agency that is, home bases in Portland, but the last several years we've expanded quite a bit around the state and including in your city, in this county, we have a veterans program that's been located in Bangor for 12 years now. And we also work with survivors of human trafficking from all over the state of Maine. And as of February 2nd, we're now running the Hope House Shelter with PCHC. So I wanted to introduce myself and also the work you're going to hear about with the transitional housing is certainly related and connected to the work we do with the shelter. So
Welcome to Bangor again, Penobscot County.
Hello, I'm Heather Blackwell. I'm the Director of Grants and Development for PCH.
Mr. Mark.
Yes, I'm Ed Marsh. I'm the Chief Infrastructure Officer, and I'm just so not glad to hear Mr. McDonald discuss air conditioning woes. I'm dealing with them as well.
You feel his pain.
I feel his pain.
So if you'd like to proceed with your presentation, we'd be delighted.
Sure, as I understand it, we are here to provide you with an update on the construction project that we received ARPA funding for from the county, so we will be doing that. And then we'll also, after that, so that'll be the Ed Marsh show, he's gonna take over and do that for us. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit about kind of where we are in terms of the operational and the programming aspect of transitional housing and the sustainability planning that we're doing for the services that we provide there. So,
Great, thank you.
Last time we were here, we were upstairs in the cushion seats. It's all good. Yeah,
I'm so diligent with our space allocation.
that is right. So talking about space allocation, last time we were here, we looked at doing a second floor onto the building. We talked about doing a second floor onto the Hope House transitional side of the building. We looked at that. That was to provide us with the space needed for common space, the 4 additional rooms, those types of items. It was going to be a challenge. It was one that we could do, but more we started thinking about it, more walking the site, more looking at everything. It determined that that's going to be a problem, to try and get to the second floor, the additional cost of the elevator, 2 stair towers, and then the disruption to all the tenants. So we looked at it, looked at the site again, and what we did was came up with the idea of doing a wing. We started out this way, and then we got into the parking lot too much. So we're gonna have a slight angled wing, and that will showcase the.
We've got a copy of that.
Yeah, but it didn't come out as good, but, so this will be the sleeping rooms. So now what we're doing is making the entire residential section, all the sleeping rooms over here. And then you have your common areas, your meeting spaces, your recovery, your counseling, all those types of items are now over here. So what that does is allows us to build this, move everybody over, and then pretty much close this down, work on this, and allows us to do that in a much more effective and efficient manner. We went out for an RFP to contractors, we advertised, and we also reached out, and fortunately, we received, we had 7 qualified contractors. 2 of them decided that it just didn't work for them timing-wise. So we received 5 proposals, which was just wonderful. All of the 5 were good proposals. We went through a scoring criteria, and Nixon O'Day out of Brewer, they were selected. They had a very good proposal. They had very competitive rates, very fair. If you look on page 13 on the one that I sent out is what their estimated cost, and you can see that
their percentages were quite low. And their estimates fell in line with where we are at. The county, we have $2.5 million that's allocated to this project. They're estimating the project to be 2 to 2.2 million. We never know how that's gonna go as they get looking at it. We have 145,000 in design and engineering. So that left us 2.355. We still have some furniture, fixtures and equipment to take care of in there as well. But we feel confident that we're going to fit within the budget that we have. We're not gonna have a huge amount left, but we're going to be able to fulfill our obligations, everything that we've stated we're going to do, and we feel like we're gonna get there. We are right now in the queue waiting. We've been in front, we've submitted a few times to the city of Bangor for their planning board, for their planning department, to get in front of the planning board. We've more questions. So we are hopeful that we were going to hear back immediately so that we can get on their planning board. We feel like we've met all the requirements for the zoning, for everything. We made some adjustments to assure that we weren't encroaching upon anything. And knock on wood, we hope to break ground end of July, beginning of August. Okay. And the team that's working on it is preparing everything right now, working with potential subs, all of that. Questions or comments, concerns?
Questions? So did they estimate the timeline to completion?
Approximately 12 months. You know, I know that we have to have all of our funds expended by December of 2026,
Right.
31.
Yeah.
And we do not see any problems with meaning that. We're gonna be very conscious. The idea is to get this new construction part, get all this new construction done. Get everything ready, and that way in the winter time, they can work inside over here. They were also the select contractor for the budding project at the shelter. So that we will have one contractor on the site instead of having two fighting for space, fighting for laydown. It's a pretty compact site. So we're very fortunate and very lucky. They also did the project in 2015 where we had a major expansion. So they're used to the project.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yes.
Just, gender, what is a gender arrangement or how does that fit into that? I'm just curious. As I look at it, there's no specificity.
No, they're all single-use bathrooms. The rooms are the rooms there. Single room occupancy,
Yeah,
so there's only one person. per
yeah,
room.
but I mean, it's not like winged or, no, so it's just, yeah, okay. Thanks.
Very nice design and certainly
Yeah, it's,
ADA purposes. and
where you
other-
angle that out, that's pretty good.
It does, the OCD is a little trouble with it.
Just squeezed it in, yeah.
You know, just trying to, it's like, I like things straight, but, even, but no, it was a good, I don't know if we would have been able to meet our budget going with the second floor and disruption.
That's Atlantic Resources did this one?
For the site planning, yeah, and TAC Architects based out of Bangor is doing the architectural.
Now, just to clarify, will Cobble Street be managing this facility too, or are they just doing hotels?
So Purple Street's managing the shelter. We're still running transitional housing and the clinic. But we're in close partnership because the transitional housing operations and the shelter were formerly very intertwined. So we are continuing to work together. For example, they're providing food for transitional housing guests, which we used to do through the shelter kitchen. And we're continuing to have these conversations going forward about how to best optimize and be most efficient about how to run the entire whole house operation.
Great. Well, this is a very nice presentation. We're encouraged that you are on a timeline that doesn't create needs to approach Congress, because I'm not sure that would work out, as well as we'd like it to.
Get it out of the wire.
Do you have any other thoughts or comments you'd like to share with us?
Simply that last time we were here, we talked a little bit about the program that we're providing at transitional housing and our desire to move in the direction of a supportive recovery housing model for those units. that work is ongoing, it continues. We are, right now, we are not formally a supportive recovery program. What we do is provide significant wraparound services for the tenants in transitional housing through our medical services. So we participate in, we do case management, we participate in lots of different programs through Medicaid, as well as, we provide just straight up clinical services on site. All of those are available to the transitional housing guests, and the case management is incredibly important to moving them into long-term permanent housing or transitional housing. So that work is ongoing. We, two things have happened since we were here last. We have received a small grant from United Way to support operations of transitional housing. It will not cover all of the costs of 24/7 housing staff. However, it's a step in the right direction. And we're continuing to identify grant opportunities. We have several grant applications out, thanks to this amazing grant writer here to my left. There's many efforts underway. The other thing we've done is engage a consultant that was referred to us by Mark Swan, who's Dana Totman, who's been working with us to identify any available funding stream for the kind of programming that we want to do for in transitional housing. And we have, he and us and all the people who sort of looked at this have concluded that we really need to build a model. So we're putting together a stakeholder group for kind of that future state that we want to see at transitional housing. In the meantime, we're maintaining staffing to ensure safety for tenants. So that requires, we have 4 full-time staff and 3 per diem staff at the transitional housing program. So that's the current state, kind of where we are. We're not quite there yet, but we're making good progress.
You have kind of a hope for timeline yet on that project?
Yeah, I mean, meaning the programmatic part of it. Yeah, I mean, we will, so it's gonna have to come in phases, as we identify the funding sources and as we sort of secure additional operational funding. But I would anticipate by the end of 2026, we will have implemented a new program. Whether it will be fully, ideally, exactly what we want at that time is unclear, but we'll be well on our way by the end of 2026.
Do you anticipate building a facility or leasing space? Have you gotten that far yet?
No, you mean additional space for the programming? No, so the construction is, we've designed the building so that all of there's space for the program inside of the building.
Okay.
The other thing we've done that I just want to mention, that the construction design, because Ed's great at this, is a very adaptable layout, so that if we, for example, the community I've been speaking with the hospitals about recuperative care. So for folks who are being discharged from the hospital but are unhoused, right now there's nowhere for them to go if they require some support when they're recovering from their hospitalization. So if this has been designed such that that is something we could do in that new wing, right? We could sort of segment off a portion where those beds could be available. So we've designed it, Ed's designed it really in a way that's can be most responsive to sort of community need as well as available funding sources.
Thank you. Other thoughts, questions?
Nice to see that, I'm sure you didn't want it quite that close, but on our last conversation that the final numbers came in workable, yeah.
No, we appreciate all the efforts and all the help and, all the, patience as we get through this.
Well, we're learning a lot of things as we come through this process.
Hey, just a question, you said you had a scoring criteria, were they also the low bidder as well, or they just made it through the scoring criteria?
They were in the middle, because we went with range. This is construction management style. So we will work with them to get to a guaranteed maximum price. And then we'll enter into another contract for that. So we come up and feel comfortable that it's a 2.2 to 2.2. We had one that was at 3 million and one that was at 1 million. I don't know, I would have loved to say it was 1 million, sure, we'll take it right now, we'll sign the guaranteed maximum price, but never would have happened. I have a feeling they forgot that there was interior renovations as well. But the others were right in the 2 to 2.2. And, you know, so to have 3 of them, they were very reputable construction managers who, you've seen do a lot of work. I can name them. There's Bowman Constructors, Dunbar and Braun, Wright Ryan, LaJoy Brothers, CEM. I feel bad I'm forgetting one. And Nixon Odette, sorry. Yeah. So they were, it was a very good package. And it was interesting, there's a couple of them were right almost there to see the percentages that we had were, you just don't see it that often. So we were quite happy.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for what you do, and we appreciate your being with us. I hope that we very educational and informative meeting.
Very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you very much. At this point, we will invite EMA to come forward for their portion of the agenda. Gentlemen? Yeah. Here's the bar playing the role of Judge Judy today.
Good.
I only caught the last one. Report.
Oh, yeah, I know it's duty, I just didn't get the correlation. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your time, commissioners. We'll, be as brief as, we can. The first thing on the agenda that I'd like to present, Director LaVoy unfortunately had to leave. But we wanted to talk about some, joint field activities that occurred in April.
Okay.
We were gonna talk about this last month, but busyness overtook us and we're doing it now. So I think you all have the, yes, I see it there in front of you. I just wanna highlight two events. The first being, the deployment of our, more mobile communications tower and, to support the Penobscot canoe race. Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, sure. So this is the second time we've used that tower, the other being the Millinocket Marathon. We use it to support, the North Search and Rescue Team that we're building out through our community emergency response team, planning. So they did a lot of the pulling people out of the stream, during the race. So we operated as deck control for that with the amateurs, so it volunteers, I should say. So it didn't really, there was no layout on staff for it at all. Overall, it was pretty successful. The deployment of the tower and the interoperability with our volunteer amateurs and the search rescue team was, I'd say swimmingly, no pun intended, but it was also very helpful because it's a lot lower stakes than an actual incident or emergency. That we were able to test a lot of these interoperability capabilities. We worked with, I believe, the Bangor Fire Department Mobile Command Vehicle, with Andy Emery, who's assistant chief, who's the AC for Bangor Fire Department. So we got a lot of, I think, really helpful practice, are able to iron out some kinks and actually were able to use some of our other technology we have, like our hotspots we get through first and things like that, in order to log all of the traffic. So it showed us that we have the capability to do a lot of this stuff off the grid if necessary.
Do you track your time and resources for projects, or you have an estimate of what
So
you may invest?
we do for the, I'm not sure about search and rescue because you've been handling a lot of that, but for the amateur radio volunteers, we track all of those hours and the emergency coordinator submits those. That helps us a lot when making cases for different types of grants and funding. Show that we have a lot of volunteer hours. I believe FEMA really likes to see that in the federal government as well, that we're working with them and private partners.
So just to add, thank you. Well, just so to add to that, to your question, Commissioner, as far as tracking and the deployment of resources, we've actually recently partnered with PRCC on an asset management program that's going to allow us to track when things go out, how long they've been, when they've come back, and who those things, those timeframes, which will really be able to provide us a better report, a better direct answer to those sorts of questions, as far as our assets and those sorts of things and those uses, I think we'll be driving that there.
Yeah, it gets back to the same type of discussion we had on the fire truck. I just
Right.
want to find ways that we can be good partners, but also not if we're doing specific events for a community, for a section, or an organization particularly that is generating revenue, I would like to see us protecting and preserving the resources of the county in a way that does not put it all on the county. And, yeah, my goal is to build those reserves so that we can continue to have the continuity of service that you all are helping to provide, and be prepared when something does go awry, that you've got the resources that.
Sure that we have a replacement of assets is at least partially, provided for by those other users.
Yep.
It's not, because as I said, it falls fully on the shoulders of the county tax.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll just draw your attention to this second picture, just real quick, just showing the setup there that Tom and the volunteers were able to do with our maps there, providing communications that otherwise were not possible between Penobscot Village and downtown Bangor.
Is this the one that is this the same one we had last year up at the?
Yeah, so we received this one through ARPA funding through the commissioner's approval. We received delivery a week before the Millinock Marathon. In previous years, we had a similar setup to this, but that was through a partner, a Hancock County EMA, and allowing us to use theirs. This one has more capability and functionality that we're excited about using.
I will say also, you mentioned the asset tracking system that we're just now implementing. That'll track physical assets as well as human resources. So we'll be able to log not only hours of equipment use, but we'll be able to log volunteer hours. As far as equipment use goes, from what I understand, FEMA a lot of times in their disaster reimbursement funds also want to see the numbers for equipment time usage and the staff for it. So it's also good, I think, readiness for that process in the future. If there is a disaster that we're beginning to log, if you've got a generator running, how long is it running, things like that. So we can now keep track of that a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, and those figures will all be critically important. When there's another future disaster declaration like we dealt with in December of 2023 and are still dealing with that. The second event that I wanted to highlight is a joint operation between PRCC and our office, and that's the annual Support of the Maine Day event, which is a event that occurs in the spring of each year with the University of Maine. A lot of collaboration between the Arnold Police Department, the Fire Department, the University Police and Ambulance, and other local agencies go into developing this so we can have a good strategic and significant plan and presence to bring that workload off of the dispatch center, who's already on a day-to-day task very heavily. So on behalf of the director of regional, I'll just share that his field comm unit field dispatch center, as you can see pictured here on this first page, deployed out using some assets, including you see that box behind on the wall there, that's basically a dispatch center in a box. That once their system's complete, it will be able to replicate the dispatch console in that box. Today, it's a little bit of halfway to that. We also used our Starlinks that we were able to acquire through ARPA funding, the mobile communication tower again, and this one, we really use our drones as well. It's really created a lot of good situational awareness. You can see in the right portion of that first picture, we're streaming video. And the picture in frame, or the screen in frame, is using the surveillance system in the housing complex where this partying or gathering occurs.
I think it'd be safe to call it the former rather than the latter.
Yes. That video compared it to what Tom and our volunteer was able to capture with drone was night and day. The drone streamed through our Starlink, was able to provide really crystal clear photography, whereas this one there was just real choppy, couldn't get us what we needed to get, and really was only within the confines of where the cameras were established. The drone really allowed us, in one of the circumstances, to locate if somebody was injured in the wood line. using thermal and different functionalities of the drone. So that was really great. I just wanted to highlight two other things here, just about the stature the regional dispatch center has in the operation. On this following page, you see the deputy director, Bradley Fitzgerald, picture of the captain of the police department as well as the chief, giving a pre-operational briefing to the 50+ first responders that are there. And then followed up by that following page, the field comm unit commander, Supervisor Kendrick McCarthy doing the same.
Does the University of Maine provide any financial resources to the departments who do this event?
Not to this department and not to PRCC that I'm aware of. The thing is from my understanding is the off-campus situation is unsanctioned. So the university is not promoting it because it's outside of their scope of control.
That being said, they did provide, one of the goals this year was to reduce unnecessary ambulance traffic to the emergency rooms at both St. Joe's and Eastern Maine or Northern Light. So what they ended up implementing was at the Legion Hall, which was the command post, University Volunteer Ambulance Corps with their, I believe, 1 paramedic and 3 EMTs were able to triage anybody that paramedics brought to the command post and then determine if they could be treated there or, needed to go to the emergency room. So they were committing assets and some of their equipment to the operation. I think that was part of the kind of joint plan with Orno Fire, Orno Police, UN Public Safety, and their volunteer ambulance corps.
They provide you lunch?
Who did the lunch?
The police department in Orno bought the lunch and dinner. And dinner, yeah. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Tom. So it's not direct contribution, but they did have some skin in the game.
Okay, thank you.
And then just on the final page, just a quick demonstration or a photo of our drones being set up and ready to deploy. And it was a really great exercise with Tom, one of our 107 pilots, and as well as our volunteer. And they really found it beneficial, and it's definitely going to be something we can do going forward.
How many folks have you been able to get trained as drone pilots?
So we have Tom, I have it on my agenda, but I haven't been able to get to it yet. And then we have 2 other volunteers that are drone, and we have 1 or 2 other people that are interested in enrolling on that as well.
Thank you. Next item?
Okay, the next item.
I'm sorry, any questions here? No? Next item, please.
Thank you. All right, so the next item is, I sent a letter through the administrator to you asking to increase our finance specialist position. So when that was formed, it was created as a 24-hour-a-week position. It was an approximation. We're really finding that 24-hour-a-week is not capturing all the duties that we had envisioned for that position. Those being drafting and submitting grant narratives, work plans, subrecipient letters, quarterly reporting, and payroll responsibilities. So those are the sort of the high level things that I'm looking to have increased hours on. This position is really important for me and our department because we're really experiencing already before things even have been fully fleshed out as far as federal changes. We're having some enhanced scrutiny and extra questions on expenses, not negative questions, just things that we weren't really pinged on before.
Is this FEMA or MEMA that is inquiring about these?
It's FEMA through MEMA, who are making these things. So really this is just adding more time to the tasks to be completed effectively. So I'm looking for an approval or discussion to do a stepped approach to increasing the hours beginning next week to do 29 hours from 24. Those we cut that number selected because of if we were to reach 32, which is what I'm eventually looking to hopefully do. There will be benefits involved, which of course has its own increases significantly, of course, in the budget. The number that I was come to, if we were to do it, the budgetary increase would be $7,500 roughly dollars. As you can see on the second one, the 24 to 29 would be about $7,500. And I'm looking to start it now, just so we can have proper time to evaluate whether or not 29 is enough, or we need to consider the 32, or if we may need to consider more. I don't know that, well, I'll leave it at that right now.
When was that position added?
I have that, it was posted originally in December of 2022.
Because I think it was shortly after I came back, and one of the main reasons that really sort of supported this route was the fact that the finance at the time was really not functioning effectively. And so in talking with Deputy Director Fox was there at the time, but the director was Bradley Newting. And he gave me several examples with some grants that had really been ignored and the amount of information that needed. So at that time, that's kind of how this position was set up.
So any of this within the purview of the grant director?
I think some of it could be with some collaboration, absolutely, yeah.
And be able to take on some of those financial responsibilities that you're referring to, or?
I feel that between the grant director, finance, then yes, and work with EMA collaboratively. Again, I think I've worked with Sheila prior to Brenda's arrival. I worked with Sheila quite a bit to try and get that conversation and communication between finance. You know, just a simple example is, well, I sent this down to finance to post in revenue, well, it never got posted. But I know how departments are, they like to, they'll look at their expenses all day long because they're really concerned about it. But on the flip side, if you have a revenue account, you should be doing the same thing. So again, kind of taught them to, I don't expect the EMA finance person, Sheila, to make the entry. That's not her job. But the job is it flows up to Director Fox to make sure that that gets in there so that you see it in your financial statements. And I think with the growth that we've experienced so far, the high improvement in finance, that as this flows through, that they need to communicate even more. And the same thing with the grant director, she and I know that Wendy's been in discussions with Brenda about spending additional time in the office with finance to start kind of making that teamwork happen.
Seems to me that we're being asked to provide more information without more revenue coming from federal government, so I'm a little bit hesitant to personally that could prove something is gonna continue to grow in reporting requirements.
I appreciate what they're going through, I just think, this July 2nd, going into the budget season, I just think if it's still a need when the budget comes up, I think it should be part of their budget presentation. I'm not comfortable with you adding to the expenses.
Commissioner Marshall? Yeah, ditto.
Would there be, I appreciate that. Would there be any sort of wiggle or any sort of consideration to have a period to be able to evaluate what personnel time we actually need?
You mean expanding the hours to evaluate?
Yeah.
I think the challenge we face is the work will expand for the hours you're given, and I'm not
Okay.
saying that to be critical. I think there certainly is a need here. My frustration is we're seeing a decrease in administrative resources from the federal government, and now we're seeing an increase in demand for information. And candidly, we don't know what the current administration's posture is gonna be on a federal emergency management. I assume something's gonna have to flow. Money's flowing from the federal government, but
It's got to balance out at some point, yes.
I mean, this is maybe a fishing expedition like many of these things are, that result in us
Yeah.
having a heavy lift.
If I could offer a couple of points, so, my counter to that would be, Chris, as we talk, I want to support you. And I told you in advance what,
Right.
and the information that I told you would be relayed to them, is exactly. Matter of fact, I'll show you and send you my memo if you would like to see it. Give me a few examples, if you could just come chat with me, and provide me with a few examples of where you're running up against things. Then, but maybe between myself and Brenda's pretty clever, and or Wendy, we can figure out an approach to that. And so again, let's find the problem before we attach a solution. And let's also, it'll give us time to go through the budget so that you'd be better prepared in the budget season if there are any adjustments. You'd be better prepared to, present that to the commission. Yeah,
What I'm saying is not no, but not now.
yeah, okay. That's, well, yeah. Not a yes either, but yeah. Okay. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Any other items, Chris?
I don't think so.
Tom, anything? Appreciate the report that you put together, and I appreciate the diligence. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Al.
that was in, oh, that was in, Scott. Okay, I believe we're ready for the registry of.
Oh, okay.
Good day.
Good morning.
Sorry for the uncomfortable seat.
It's all right. Only even a couple times a month.
We like to in court, you know, get them in and out fast, so they don't need comfortable seats. So that's our motto,
I think we've gotten our return on investment on those benches too.
definitely. All right. Thank you for allowing me to come to the meeting today. I am looking to see, you have in your packets, I gave you a proposal for a promotion for current employee that we have in probate current now. And the reason I'm looking for this promotion is honestly, a couple of things. We're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place as far as union. And an employee being able to do things at their full potential and also providing the assistance that the probate office really needs at this time. With that being said, I have been told and have been approached by the union in regards to the difference between a CS1 and a CS2 position and what that particular staff member can and cannot do with those two positions. So we're currently looking, we're not looking to add an additional position. We're looking to increase a CS1 to a CS2 position and not backfill that CS1 position. With the ability to do that, if we get the approval, that will help the office immensely. Like, we would have so much time to be able to do other things that we need to focus on. Plus, you know, I don't really like to have some of my staff here 7 days a week working, trying to pick up some of the backload of the things that need to be done. This would also help with training. Getting, you know, scheduling court hearings, completing judges' orders. Doing those more complex situations in the probate court where now, because of the job descriptions, this particular employee has the capability, the knowledge, the experience, but they cannot currently do those things because of the job, two different job descriptions without me being in a predicament with the union. Honestly.
Does the administrator have any comments on this one?
Beyond what I put in my notes.
I didn't see it.
Oh, it's on the agenda, yeah, on the agenda notes, but.
On the,
My recommendation was again, and 2 points, one on fairness is, again, let's take a look at the budget, bring it back at budget time. There is a personnel aspect to this that I can't go into detail in open session. But I will say this, that a little more time might help in that area too.
And I'm willing to go into executive session for the personnel issue if, as far as that, I know that I did come to Administrator Atkins back in January in inquiring in regards to this previously. I was told to come back in June, look at the budget. My understanding is financially, we are good. We have, like the last time I was at the previous meeting, we have an increased fee. We're actually charging for things that should have been charged for previously, that hadn't been charged for. So we are recouping money that previously had never been recouped. We also have started keeping track of fee waivers. And when we're waiving fees for either petitioners, the respondent, you know, as far as if it's a guardianship, the petitioner, we might waive fees, but then at the end, the respondent could have money that, and the respondent's the person that's going under guardianship, could have money in the funds. And at that point, our judge has the ability to put in the order that they're going to reimburse the court from the respondent's money. With that being said, we currently right now have just under $11,000 out on fee waivers that we're looking to recoup. So we have increased our revenue. And I really think for this particular employee, I've got to be careful what I say out of executive session, it would be a benefit. Not just for them, for our office as a whole. Otherwise, I worry about the possibility of losing the employee, and then I'm in a whole different boat. So not, saying that but I just wanna kind of, put that out there.
And what is question logistically for maybe the administrator? One, I'm leaning towards creating a new position just for a particular employee. If we need the position, it's one thing, but if we create this new CS.
We're not creating, we're upgrading a current
Right.
position. That's basically what it is.
Promoting.
So it's what's in the organizational chart now? We must have one CS1 position, so many CS2 positions. So we'd be adding a CS2 and eliminating a CS1?
Correct.
So, but
And that's-
you just said we're not adding a position.
Well, we're not adding a new position.
A new position, we're
Right.
eliminating
Okay.
one and adding one, right?
Yes,
So we don't, if we did that, we don't have to advertise for the new position.
I don't believe so, without looking at the logistics of it, and that could be a good question. Again, history here is that those positions in that office have been CS1s. And that was one of the reasons why I asked the register to check with the union to see if they had any. There is a concern that if we make one movement, that there might be others. Again, I think we need to take a deeper look into this.
I think sometimes too, if I can say to commissioners, in regards to, I think that. I checked with the union to talk the logistics over. I wanted to make sure, because again, we have been told by the union that on most job descriptions, it says, and all other duties as specified or requested. There's a fine line there between the CS1 and the CS2. So I am struggling in the office as far as we have a new employee coming that is a CS1. I have one CS2 currently who is training that new employee, but then I have nobody else to pick up the slack. Myself and the deputy can and have been picking up the slack, but then also there's other things that my deputy should be doing and myself, and we don't have that capability unless, again, we're here 7 days a week, more than 40 hours. To do it, our numbers are, they're increased. Our cases are getting harder. and more detailed, and more work goes into those cases to make sure that they're correct for the judge when they come in for a hearing. You know, so there's more steps to the process that are becoming more detailed, and my CS1. So I have 2 CS1s and 1 CS2 in the office currently. Those CS1s can't do any of that additional detail without stepping over that union barrier. Not saying they don't have the knowledge, you know.
I see what you're saying. They have the ability and in some cases the willingness, but are prevented by the union. And is this a contractual or is this a opinion that has been issued by the unions based on their interpretation?
I think it could be a combination of both. I will say that, and I believe in around January or February, that is when we did work collaboratively and upgraded one of the CS1s. And sort of went with the approach that that individual was kind of looked at as an office manager. No real recourse came out of that. I think they looked at it was beneficial to everybody. The person's doing the work. At that time, I was unofficially, it was mentioned that there were concerns about the individual doing that work without the upgrade. And then, you know, things, that individual actually is now the deputy. So again, we kept the position, we went through a process, upgraded another person in the office. Again, going any further with any concerns, I agree, if the register would like to come back, during our executive session, I think it would behoove us to take 5 minutes to kind of talk about it.
What's the difference in the pay of the 2 positions?
Oh, off the top of my head, I wanna say in the mid-range, it was close to $3 an hour. Say 275, 285, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would increase that person to 40 hours, and that's
37 and a half to 40.
right, per union stipulation that it has to be 40 hours. You can't backtrack that to the 37 and a half. I checked with them. If this particular person could stay at the 37 and a half, you know, trying to save money too, and they are not able to per the contract.
So what's the pleasure of the commission at this point? Do we want to we add it now or do we not advertise this? We come back, we have one.
I'm comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable with it,
Next
then
meeting?
time to think about it, or?
So the question before us is whether we want to go to executive session today or we need some time to digest this and come back next week.
I think we wait till next week.
Okay, well, with your patience, we'll put that on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay, and I'll
Thank you
come
for
with
your-
financials and some additional
That would be great.
backing.
Trying to
Yep.
break this all in here.
Because as you can understand, there are some types of reverberations when we make
Yeah,
these
that's-
decisions.
every time is-
Right.
And reverberate,
Right.
just not within yours, but through other departments.
Right, and if you look at some of the other departments, I have looked at some of their positions too, and like the deeds office is just CS1s, that is some of their choice because of the hours between the 37 and a half to the 40. The DA office, all of them have moved to CS2 positions because of the specialty of their work, and I think that's what I think sometimes not, but people forget probate is not an easy position.
Sure, it's quasi judicial in some respects.
Correct,
Understood.
yes.
Understood. Okay. So I appreciate the work you put into, presenting this and, I think we just need to digest. things.
No, that's perfectly fine. I appreciate it.
Any other items or you all set?
That is it.
Okay. Very good. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, I believe we're going to skip over ARPA since the director is unable. to-
Yep, you got Mr. Proman there.
And, thank you. Mr. Proman, please come forward again if you would, sir. Yay. Oh, yeah. How are things in your world?
Busy.
Yeah.
So, couple things here. So it's actually hard to believe that this is just shy of a year since we came back after the UT project. And it's been busy. As of yesterday, that is 1 year officially that the Central Maine Highlands Fire and EMS District has been in existence. So they survived 1 year. They're moving into.
They're all talking to each other.
They learned a lot along the way.
Like a 6-hour family vacation over the station wagon, man.
But they're going well, and they've made some adjustments along the way. To better, they learned through this process that when you start a brand new organization that doesn't belong to anybody, and you really do try to financially go very conservatively on the line, and you don't have, anybody behind that at the end of the year, I learned, that there's no money to pull from. So, and like the start of the budget, so they corrected that in the next year, so we'll have that, little cushion to get between the start and ending of the budget. And then I believe they've changed the way that they're gonna have the community gonna pay monthly instead of quarterly, so that it creates a better cash flow, for that.
Great thought to consider, Mr. Shaw.
Well, it's a good thing. I
Cash
mean,
flow is what it's all about.
after a year, Maxwell joined, you've got nobody leaving.
Yeah.
Maxwell joined, so that's a good indication.
I mean, I still think there's potential for
What did I say?
Maxwell.
That's fine with me.
other communities
Yeah,
to
you too.
get involved up there, but, right now, kind of holding tight, but, so that's going well. So over the last year, essentially, we have 3 other community groups within Penobscot County that have begun talking. It's 11 communities in total over 3 groups that are all looking at doing something collaboratively for fire and EMS. So it's with a little bit of a push from you folks to say that we're supporting each effort. We were able to coordinate meetings. Several groups have been meeting for over 6 months at this point. Just really doing a deeper dive at where their agency is at and what the future and everything possibility could bring. Fortunately, not as many in your district as everybody else. But it does seem like there always seems to be financially right now, I'd say every community is terrified on just where things are gonna be in a year, let alone just the challenges of fire and EMS, but just everybody's like, where are we at? And kind of some of that sentiment was expressed today. Where are things gonna be in another month? Outside of those 11 communities that are actively, there's 2 other areas that are potentially interested, and there's been a few other communities that have kind of been sticking their toe into the meetings. They're not really been committed into that, but they're expressing interest in like, let's see what is going on in these meetings and how things are going. One of them, the 4 communities, is looking, they are kind of at that decision point that they want to go back to their communities to have that, like, should we formally move forward with this? And, once they do that, I was gonna come back to you guys, we'll talk a little bit about the guidance that you can do from the attorney who helps establish the one. We're not quite there yet, but I do think we'll be there, shortly for one. That one is actually also in a partnership with Northern Light. So Northern Light has been involved, they've had their VP, has been attending the meetings, and they've truly been trying to identify where the gaps in service are, and then how everybody can kind of have a little bit more say. A lot of this has come down from, kind of a feeling they don't have any say or control. And previously, like Northern Lights, here's your contract. And some of these communities, there's some option for them, but if you move away from Northern Light, the fire department has to do it, and there's really nobody else. And so when you talked about, with Mr. Brushwell talking about Patton, you hear that Patton is the only one up in the northern part of the state for EMS. And there's no one else to even, there's no one else to even go to say, hey, we'll work together. But where everybody else is. So that's, it's been moving the last couple of years. And I do want to express that several community leaders that we've been meeting with, wanted me to express thanks to you, because they said if we didn't have somebody from the outside helping facilitate, they didn't think the meetings would have lasted more than 1 or 2. Everybody seems to be on the idea with it. Again, it's just helping facilitate that it's not one town trying to take over or have the expression that they're trying to take over the other towns. Because everybody's very passionate about fire and EMS, and they want to have their say in that. So that's kind of a little recap. And I've been trying to do every 2 weeks, not indent your inboxes, but just kind of updates. So if there's ever anything additional that you'd like to move forward, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to include those. So we're at the year mark, and so now, we actually have another 6-month extension. However, several of these communities applied through the county to the state to, have a deeper assessment of their EMS services through the EMS, community grant. And, so the communities have been awarded the funds through the county. And, so we're looking at kind of revamping the contract for another 6 months, which then would allow, very similar to what we've done before, to continue if you so desire. The good news is there's a little bit more work for me, in this, which is good. But then the good news is because the state, is funding some of this work, it's actually less of a burden on the county. So there's some funding implemented over the next 6 months, which this will be covered by the grant. Not official yet, but I'm hearing through the pipeline that the state is actively trying to establish a permanent, funding source for communities who want to work together to have a grant process similar to this. Moving forward, it would be permanent. The set amount I heard around, they're hoping for around $100,000 that communities across the state can say, if we want to work together, there could be an avenue for them to have some funding for that. But not permanent yet, but we do have the money that has been paid. These 7 communities has been allocated. It's been issued, and there's already been a contract. Questions?
So have we had kind of a blended use of those funds that were allocated to the 2 grants that got from the?
Not as of yet. That's what we're here to discuss today. We are working in arrears to, shock the state isn't responding to my emails as quickly as I would like. So I'm inquiring because obviously, Froman Consulting, Paul here has given us invoices just generically. So, we've talked about so some of this work for this grant has already been done. It's been, been done in the appropriate amount of time. So in addition to that, moving forward, as you've seen in some of the highlights of the document, to move forward with the contract, the increase means is that there are gonna be significant more hours that Paul will need to do to get this done. There are steps within that grant. He's available at this time for those hours. Those hours work within the time frame of the grant. And, in order to get the grant funds, we have to get to work done. So this agreement here is an extension or sort of a 6-month extension at this point. Dates, right?
Establishing this.
With the understanding that if the work gets done or we go back to when we're done with the grants, that it would return to the original agreement.
The grant funds cover the cost of the contract?
So let's just say if Paul works 50% grant, which I think is gonna be darn near impossible.
It's probably gonna be about 80%.
With the work, it's probably close to, I would say maybe even 90, but you're right, yeah. Yeah, so it will cover the majority, if not all.
What's the balance about?
Currently through, what we have set aside. So that's what, I'm trying to remember, trying to buy myself time here. I can't remember which account we use. But we're currently paying him through another, I can get that in.
Was it like ARPA money where you use?
No.
No, we were
Not
not
using
like.
ARPA.
No.
I think we may have used interest money of some.
Knows. I was thinking it might be the LATCF. I think it is.
So we
I thought
received
Joe's.
a stipend in addition to COLT money
Right.
during COVID. We had to apply for that and we've had that undesignated, so I think we
Right.
may have tapped that for.
The good news is that this work that he's doing doesn't need to come out of that fund. It will be reimbursed by the state's grant monies.
We
And I
have full
think-
confidence that the state will eventually pay us.
Well, if they don't, then I guess we have to have a conversation and, again,
I think the value of his work certainly
Yeah.
has proven itself. And we've known this was a longer term project than 6 months.
this is good. Yeah, that's good news to know that
Yeah.
we're moving forward, we're making enough progress, because
Well, it's a
honestly,
demonstrated need out there that.
yeah.
No, I mean, I
Everybody,
support this
Right.
collaboration effort, but I hope the towns understand, we're not spending money to save the county any money, we're spending money, these towns are gonna save money, it doesn't save
Yes.
the county any money, it saves the towns money.
The majority of it, yes, I think Paul would agree, the majority of the savings would be in controlling and organizing costs and more efficient future services, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
No, yeah, this
on
is,
faith that
it's very positive, but it doesn't save the county.
No, and, you know, candidly, I think the money that we allocated to this project came from sources that were not directly from property tax.
Right, but it was county, committed to county.
And in order for them to do it collectively, they needed a partner.
Right,
The
exactly,
county
yeah.
to partner up as
Yeah.
collectively like we did up in Howland.
Right.
In order for Paul to be able to process, you know, for us to be able to process an
Exactly.
application.
This may take you a little time to research, but the legal costs associated with this, did that come from those same revenues, or did it come through budgeted legal?
I think all legal costs right now, and that was done through the UT. We haven't hit any legal costs or anything like that with
Not
this yet. That's what he was alluded to in the next step of this one group.
Yeah.
Yeah, these grants cover basically the work that Paul has kind of done with many of the groups up until now. My concern really to the commission at this point would be, and to Paul, is if one of those groups really wants to take off, or if this grows, or we get another grant, you know, it's hard to do this on a part-time basis with 3 grants and 4 groups out there going. So if it gets much more business it comes about, you're gonna need another hand.
We only had someone else in the room that understood finance that could give us some suggestions.
Or we get like with this contract, we can get in, to get the grant work done and get ready for the next round.
Well, it certainly is bearing the type of fruit that I think is valuable. The question becomes, you know, if my colleagues have desire to up this, I'll leave it for you to decide whether the terms that you presented are acceptable to you. I personally will be supportive.
I think if we don't, then I think we sort of have to probably turn the grants back in.
Yeah, the
You know, I
communities
mean-
have been allocated, so
Right,
the work for them needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if the county didn't want it.
Even though they've been allocated, the money is flowing through the county for this purpose.
Yeah, so, the communities were encouraged to work together, and it was kind of the question of, and a lot of it came back from the leadership of this community saying, we appreciate your work, so how can we, kind of the same agreement of partnership on where's that line of what's needed to be done for this grant, but then also kind of keep you involved in the process. And then they were like, well, who should the check go to from the state, if anybody? And then we sat there and they're like, well, if it goes to a town, and then the town could pay me to then pay the county back, and we just thought it got very messy.
Yeah.
And so, when we had a conversation and we did check with the state, they're like, hey, could the county be kind of the hub of these communities? And they said, absolutely. So Maine EMS was like, we support that, because then it makes it kind of clear.
Sure.
And then we sat down to try to figure out where's that line on where's the the communities that are and then the communities that are.
Yeah.
And kind of try to maximize, I guess, the funding.
So
You continue to support the work.
you know, I think a positive example too of collaborative efforts. So, do we have a motion at this point?
Move approval of the contract with Froma Consulting for services to support fire and EMS services and regionalization in Penobscot County.
All right.
Get all that done, Scott?
Yep.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to extend, right? And in the event that there are discussions as in the Holland area outside of fire EMS, is that something that your experience, your contract would allow you to consult on as well?
I'm not according to what is in the contract. Our contract's very specific to that. I do know, at one point in time, and Mr. Buswell might know, that's still happening. After
He's escaped.
No, he's right there. Meeting outside of fire and EMS.
Yes, I've been involved in most of those meetings, outside of fire and EMS.
Which did lead to that, and I can say the same group that's looking at communities that are starting to look at going together have already started saying like, hey, as well as Millinocket and East Millinocket, even though they're in the very early stages, they've already had the conversation of maybe this could lead to other conversations. So it is
I think they're open to regionalization cooperation in a lot of areas now, a lot of economic necessity. People realize these traditional hesitations have gone by the wayside because of economics.
If we could take a vote on this if we're ready. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If we can take a 2-minute break here, unless you have anything else.
I know.
Okay. Thank you very much.
look at beginning balance and net.
So, yeah, you have three different reports, the different fund balances, for the fund two, which is special revenue, so, you just see where we are with some of these accounts, probably what I'll do next time is I'll probably clean this up more before I get it to you. This was just a straight report out of, Trio, but,
Well, we know that's accurate, right?
still doing a little cleanup, but yeah, it's pretty good.
Any red flags on any of the accounts we should be watching?
You know, if you look at the Homeland Security grants, those are showing big negatives, but the funds have been requested, we're just waiting for the money to come in. So all those ones are all really slow to come in. And I'm pretty sure that we were talking about, donor consulting, about 41,000 out of the, LATCF.
I think so.
Pretty
That
sure
was my
that
first
was-
information.
That's what that was coming on.
It's been a fascinating journey to learn about all these different little pockets.
There's so many, yeah,
Mhm.
it is, yeah, there's something I wanna focus on more, just haven't really. It hasn't been the hot ticket item yet. And then you also got a snapshot of the ARPA account,
That's the second page.
that's Fund 5.
Oh,
And, I was talking with Gary this morning on, Franklin Street HVAC, that $56,000 negative.
Which line is this?
So,
161.
161.
it's on the second page, isn't it?
Yeah, but it says Fund
Third.
5 at the top.
Yeah, third page.
So I didn't
What's the
know- I
number?
didn't know what order you're.
It would be, about halfway down the page there.
I got it.
Got it?
So I'm not sure that if we, budget funds down or if that moves up to a different line. But that was that big HVAC project, $375,000 project. Some of it was spent last year. And then I don't know, I was gonna try to catch up with Wendy on, there's a handful or 3 or 4 that haven't spent any funds yet, and I don't know. Money's on loan.
We're not rushing them,
Yeah,
because the interest grows.
yeah, and that was actually on the first. We've got, 1.7 million in ARPA right now,
Is that just ARPA or is that,
just ARPA, yeah.
how about on the other?
When you have under Franklin Street HVAC, 375,
That was the project, that was the total project. Authorized amount, and they, I believe, I wanna say last year, maybe, they spent.
What's that? Well, we did a total gut of the building,
yeah.
so yes, I mean, it's major rehab down there. And as we got into it, it got deeper and
Whole buildings.
That's why I was wondering about that 56,000 that's in there now. I thought that project had been completed, so. I guess I have to look at last year to see if we did hit 375, and if we're going over, or did we have some excess last year?
The invoice I have here from Mechanical Services, like, they previously billed $299,000.
Okay.
And amount left to bill 75,000, and this was a requisition amount, this was. So, yeah, it's almost.
Yeah, but somewhere in there, they didn't line up Trio with that.
Right, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's a budget move or if we move those dollars.
I think somewhere, if it's not this invoice, then it might be an invoice from last year. That's what I'm trying to say is, like you said, you've got a requisition that says 375 total.
Oh,
or
with that
roughly
other
there.
299 then.
Yeah, yeah. So last year, there may be an invoice that needs to go somewhere else.
Then, the last report is the, capital improvement fund. And where each department have, is sitting on some funds. That some of them get carried forward year to year. And that's just more informational.
Which report?
That bank was 501, 2.2 million,
Yeah.
that Millinocket.
I don't know.
Well, that's the project that you listened to today.
No, that was,
HCHC?
that,
Oh, Penquist.
Panquist is what I'm looking at.
Penquist 2.5.
That's the Millinocket Manor or whatever they call
Oh, Penquist 2.2. Yeah, that's a combination, I believe, of 3 different projects.
it. No.
Okay,
I think that one up there is, oh yeah, that Panquist there was 1.2 or something or other. What is the 2.2?
2.2 was the original budget.
But that was more than one project.
Yeah.
Right.
The one that they were talking to today, I think is 2 rows up,
Yeah, PCUC, yeah.
2.5.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was.
no, but I was inquiring about the one at 501. Which one's that?
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know that one.
So, Penquist and PCHC are 2 different.
Yeah.
They're both doing,
But Penquist has got, I think Penquist is might be 2 projects that they're doing. One is
we supported the project in Millinocket and we supported Milford Street here in Bangor.
that's what that must be. So the aggregate is 2.2.
And they haven't
Millinocket
requested
was just
any
about
funds yet.
1.2. So the other one's Milford,
Pardon me?
the other one was
I
Milford.
think Milford Street,
I think it is, yeah.
I think we can join with cities to support that project.
I think the issue with those projects, especially the larger one, is getting contractors right now. They said the one, can't remember what street it was, but the old school.
Well, I talked to the guy I told you about.
Oh,
and every
Peter,
building.
Leah,
They're doing that. They've been, apparently the work has been done inside the gutting of the building inside there.
that's been done for a while, yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. I haven't seen any motion.
Great for you.
And the rest of it, they've got it marked out. But they're gonna resume or start, I guess, this next month. August.
I know that we're enjoying this, but we do have other things to do today, so moving along. Any other reports?
No, I just wanted to, give you a quick update. I have, an intern that started yesterday, so I have her working on, the 2023, getting ready for the 2023 audit. We received the 2022 audit report, it's draft, so that should be finalized very soon. I also, we hired a part-time payroll person, it's been a couple months now, but she's working out really well. She's helping Katie not only with just the basic payroll, but helping her with some efficiencies and teaching her some Excel, and she's just been great. So I've also, they've made so many efficiencies that they've done early now, every week, so, she's helping with some of the old bank recs, getting those caught up. And I got, once that's done, I got a couple other projects in mind for her, so.
You aren't getting bored.
No, but I feel like we're making progress, we are getting caught up and kind of trying to get my arms around, most everything. Probably not everything, but most everything.
We got program transition coming up.
A what?
Software transition coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, we're changing our general ledger system November 1st.
from Trio to Edmonds.
Okay,
This was decided last year sometime.
have you ever worked with that platform or?
But I don't like Trio. I don't mind saying. So,
You may not
hopefully
be
it's an
worthy of
improvement.
that. Well, it's good. Well, we appreciate these reports are helpful as we start to look at next year's budget.
And one of the other major things I really want to tackle, which I think will help with, as you know, Director Fox mentioned, you know, getting more scrutiny on grants, getting more requests. We're gonna start scanning all of our AP invoices, so that we have an electronic directory. So every time our requests come in, we don't have to go dig through paper files, and we'll have it all there at our fingertips. Audits and grant requests and,
So are you doing that internally in your office or is each department being asked to submit electronic?
I think we'll probably do a little bit of both. I'm gonna ask Amelie, my intern, to get caught up. I'd like to have all 25 in there. We get a few electronically now, not very many. But yeah, we will. We'll probably, enhance that request
Any requests for HCH?
for HCA.
HCH.
Oh, yeah, well, I wanna move to that. I wanna. I
You're
already
aware of
mentioned
our-
it to Scott.
You're aware of our prior problem.
Yes. And
Oh,
I will work with IT, I'll work with our bank, I'll work with the software company. And there's steps you can take that you, the lower your risk.
How much did how much did that cost us?
$152,000.
None of it covered by insurance.
Oh, nope. Not sure of the effort in that department, but wasn't without a lack of effort on mine.
That's probably a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But just to warn you, yeah, I would like to move, it's just so much more efficient. Everyone gets their money quicker, no checks, no postage.
Thank you. Just in paper and envelope, let alone the efficiency. there.
Yeah. and
All right.
Cost of checks.
Right, so yeah.
Thank you.
We're
very much.
gonna work.
Thank you. Happy Christmas.
Yeah. I still owe you a visit.
You right downstairs?
Good.
Hey, Mr. Administrator, I believe you're up.
Yes, well, you read my memo, after all the evidence, I don't see where the county bears any responsibility with regards to Mr. Newman's rat issue or rodent issue. Again, the invoice is brought to me, I have it here somewhere.
It may be late for this year.
It could be up there.
We're all in 2025. I would think that if it happened, that it was started a long time ago. Almost immediately. You know, like we were sitting parade of them with backpacks and a stick running up the.
Well, he referenced the state law that they had an application on us regarding.
The city code is what he was mentioning about. and-
City code.
Yes. and
Okay.
bank-
Renewal.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of flexibility that that was.
I actually asked for his presentation, Googled it, when you demolish a building. It does say that it's very common to have a rat. I mean, if I was a property, if I owned the Y building and this had happened, I would have said, well, geez, look at this situation, you know, but when you look into it, why? The rats go underground, they haven't seen the rat. If you go up there now, you're not gonna see a rat. But Stutzman hasn't seen a rat, Newman hasn't seen a rat. You see the evidence of the rats, so.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think there's I mean, they don't come out of thin air, I would say, if I was a property owner, I would have said, listen, I'll split it with you or something, I just think, I think it's more likely, I mean, they didn't, he's had that building for 40 years, he's never had a rat at the station, and.
He may have invested our right.
No, well, theoretically, I don't know, I can see either way, but I think as a good neighbor, it seems like to split the cost with the guy seems reasonable. Whatever people
Strong
feel.
precedence.
I think the invoices I got were around 1,800. So, again, I walked through that building several times before it was demolished. Not that I was looking, but I saw no signs of a heavy rat infestation in the building, so I never saw a rat. Brian.
Well, but it's opposite, they're like, they're in the burrowed in the ground and.
Right, but like you said, you'd see the remnants, you'd see you'd see something, but I'm not saying there weren't any rats in there, but.
Yeah, I mean, we'd owned this building in Dover for most, 9 years, and it was about 2 years ago, all of a sudden we had a rat infestation. We hired an exterminator and we haven't had rats since. So it is.
But I mean, he's not saying he's never had rats, he said,
Oh,
I think he's in, now he's got a problem.
Yeah. Well, I gathered the information.
I mean, I'm, whatever, I'm okay with whatever.
What's your opinion?
No.
What's the downside of us accepting some responsibility for it? If that's what we're doing.
Well, I think, I think it could be set in the precedent in other areas where I don't know, but again, I struggle to find where, if you'd given us invoices for June, July of last year, August, even March or April, the building started to come down in February. If we saw any signs, I mean, but,
It could be snowbird rats, so I mean.
that is a very good,
I mean,
Yeah.
I think.
Was there any sewer? There wasn't any sewer work up there, was there?
no,
Any?
nothing.
But they came back and found that their abode was gone because we tore it down.
Right. Like, damn, let's go to fall building.
Okay, so
I don't know.
Cause I had it up to the Masonic Center, but it's because they were
What do you think?
replacing the sewer pipe. And they just come up to the toilet.
well. I don't want to spend money unjustly, but we're talking about this amount here. If you're saying,
What's the amount we're looking at?
well, the total right now is 1,800. I would want some 30 that if we were to contribute to this, it does not set a precedent of ongoing, we're gonna contribute.
Well, even in this one, if he keeps having a problem, I think you would need to sign off saying, there's not gonna be any further requests from the county. I mean, if they go in that direction, not only he needs to sign off on it as well.
That would be, I think I do up to 1,000 with the understanding that this is a one-time and no acceptance of responsibility, but
And it would come out of the rat account. We get a rat account.
We got $100 bucks.
Yeah.
We got $100 in that bridge account to take it from, can't we? What do you?
No, I'm just thinking that, I'm not looking to pay to relocate, an undesirable element,
I think we want to
regardless of our
eradicate.
culpability. Well, it's not much, but.
There's no rat union.
Or manipulative
You know,
conditions, no.
No.
Okay, I would say based on what this customer presented and his knowledge of rats, I would authorize up to, caution, up to $1,000, and Mr. Newman would agree not to pursue any other.
When you say
Any
up to,
Well, right now,
Would it
half or up to $1,000, right now, half would be $900. So but if he's got some other bills and now they're up to $2,500, I don't wanna go over $1,000. I think that's what Commissioner Fishing suggested. So, sure,
I
half
say
of the
half
expense.
is the building.
Right, I don't wanna go over 1,000.
Right, well,
Right
yeah,
now,
okay.
if it's only 1,800, we'll pay 900. If he's got 2,500, we'll go up to 1,000. And then with a understanding that he would release the county from anything going
Or
forward.
the ongoing responsibility. Because the building's gone, it's not like we're.
Right. I don't know what,
You may want to just consult with a attorney on our side of the equation before you.
Okay, I'm just thinking, ching, cha-ching, cha-ching, ching, but you're the commissioners, I'm just the administrator, so I'm gonna follow. Do you want me to write something up and spend the money for a lawyer? With a,
you're a good lawyer.
I think.
You're getting
I
your own
think
sale
if it
price
just-
from
this
any
is-
firms that are going out of business or?
Maybe.
The way I look at it is.
This releases the county from any further responsibility regarding to the rodent issue presented by, Mr. Newman, Mr. Stutzman on such and such a date. Case closed, okay,
Well,
yeah,
remember the partners, the two Newmans that are partners in the, so you might want to say the parties that own in their exterminator, something to that.
My concern is that as much as this is costing to get rid of this, the Y and get us to where we are today and how much beating we're taking, to turn around and then have to pay to relocate the factory is just adding insult to injury. I mean, that's, I don't see I mean, that's the way I look at it. I know, I see it as a relocation fee.
relocation.
I don't really look at that in a
It's
kind
the
of.
establishment of the county welfare department. How's that?
I mean, we're not there.
What?
It may not be our,
All right,
it may not be our fault, David, but it's a responsibility. Okay. Do we need to take a vote on this? Do we have a motion? I believe?
yes, yes.
I have a
yeah.
motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to contribute up to $1,000 to the parties that adjoin the Y property for extermination purposes.
Yep.
Any further reading of this subject? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous.
Okay,
Next meeting, 23rd,
Yep.
10 a.m., right
Yep.
here.
yep,
Be here, be square.
I won't be here, so.
Okay.
Dennis drill. It was done a year ago.
Okay, so that's good. Real estate,
Yeah, right.
real estate contract, Y property review.
so I can give you an update, I reached out to. Syracuse.
We're on, we're live.
We supposed to be in executive session?
Not yet.
Not yet, we're okay right now, I sent you the document. I inquired about, I can't remember who, somebody asked about like, well, would there be a reduced fee if it went through like a transfer or a swap or something like that? And in short conversation with Mr. Hughes, it basically is that, even if that happens, his experience is there still would be a lot of work. And, his time is money, he's really helped us out immensely on the new facility project. What he did was he reduced the minimal fee by 10,000 from 40 to 30.
That's the commissioner, that's the upfront amount.
No, I think so basically if it doesn't sell, then there's nothing, but if it sells, it's at a minimum of 30,000, I can't remember what the rate is, so say, whatever the rate is in the
So
actual selling
Instead of
price.
a percentage, it's a flat contract fee for,
I think to a certain point, but if the percentage exceeds that, so just say if it's $1 million and, and it's, I think it was 8%, then it would be, $80,000. So that would
it is
exceed the
not
30.
unreasonable, from my experience on raw land, to be in the 8 to 10%. But
Okay, yeah, that's why, yeah,
this is also a little more complicated process we're having.
So
the 30 is a minimum, it could go higher. based on the percentage, but 30 is the minimum.
What's the percentage?
I wanna say 8%.
8% would be like 32. We're estimating.
Yeah.
We're taking a placeholder number of what that would sell for.
8% is the sales price, or a minimum of 30,000.
Okay, so. 8% of 300, right.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be 20.
Did he give a range yet, or what did he list there?
600K to start. Yeah. I think he kind of feels it's on the high side.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, not
Didn't you buy it for 600 something?
Oh, no, less than that.
Oh, was it less than that?
Oh, 588 was it?
Okay.
Yeah,
So what
I was
we're,
thinking somewhere around.
what we're looking for is acceptance of the terms of his contract to move forward with getting it listed, which
Yeah.
would give us the
Yeah.
marketing services.
Yeah, I think if anything else, that we should probably schedule for an exec and bring him in and,
Rather than taking a vote today. Okay.
yeah.
I'm fine with that. Workshops.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was, yeah, so that was the option. It sounds like you'd rather wait, bring him in on the 23rd and talk about this?
I'm okay.
We can approve the contract. I think
Oh, I
we
see.
can approve the contract
Okay.
today if everybody's happy
I
with it. If you're not, we want to get into further discussion. I think we should do that in executive session.
I'm fine with the contract. I move
Yeah.
approval of the contract, David,
Have a motion, have a second, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Workshops.
Yep. I'll send out, some dates. July seems kind of busy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but maybe in August, talk about a few things. Again, I thought that last meeting that we had, when you kind of collectively got together and established some goals and expectations, even though many of them were already in process. For me, let's see, I'm trying to look at my notes here. I know a couple of policies actually came up. One is, I think we need to take a look at the dress code. Evaluations, the evaluation process. Yep, that needs to, I guess, kind of looking for, I think we need an official process.
Yep. I think we have two different evaluation methods here. One that would reflect on your position is how we would work with Val for the administrator, but then something for department heads and potentially there may be processes, some already use internally for evaluations, but I think we need to reflect on whether there's a standard type of.
There are, yeah, no, you're exactly right. Yep, I think trying to just put everybody on the same page and make them feel comfortable about that.
I think, again, from my standpoint on the evaluations, this is not about us trying to focus in on an individual. It is about how are we as policymakers assuring that the people that are working with us in departments understand what our direction is, and it's almost a bilateral thing in that in the evaluation process, say for your position, you may learn something from our feedback in evaluations that is different than what you perceive.
Right.
You know, if we were here on a daily basis, I think there might be a different dynamic, but coming in here as we do and paying such close attention to every single item that's brought up, sometimes
Sarcasm filter.
results in us not always being clear.
Yeah, no, I agree, it's two different, and I think, like, as long as the three of you decide with regards to my position, and whether it's me or somebody else in the future, that would be a benefit. It's really the evaluation, I started in one direction and then, it kind of stalled out for one reason or another, and I think that needs to be part of the conversation as well. I think there needs to be conversation, amongst ourselves to decide how we're gonna move that forward. I just think there's been a lot of disrespect for my position. I've heard a lot of things. We need to have that conversation.
Well, I think again,
And it's not from everybody. It's
but
not from everybody, but it has in many instances, it's been rather, I'll tell you, it's been rather severe. And in some instances, I've allowed it to happen and to come to you as an example before I really report it. Because part of my issue with this position is I feel like I'm struggling with full support from the commission. So again, growing pains for the county overall, I think is where that comes from. I'm a different type of leader than the Bill Collins. But Bill Collins had Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Baldacci pretty much basically running the show. We have gone from meetings every week, right? You remember that, to now twice a month. And with the volume, as you see, of the business. And I mean, and not that I'm not complaining. I appreciate the trust, and that's what kind of keeps me motivated is you expect me to do it. I'm doing it. I don't really hear too many complaints. And so we move forward. But that's another reason why I think these meetings are good, is we need to sit down, we need to hash this out and go over things before they fester into a big old issue that just is not necessary. And there are a couple of departments that I think that we need to sit down and talk about, and maybe include them. Finance is on an uptick, really great. But I feel we need to do some things to make sure that that continues.
well, it's, in my perfect world, where we have a strategic plan that's in place and we all understand and accept the bulk of the strategic plan. I mean, everyone's gonna have their priorities, as we saw even here today,
Right.
and that's fine. I think it's healthy to have some of those discussions, and not
Yes.
everybody's gonna get a new pony.
No,
But understanding as a policymaker, some of these, I'll use a simple example. There was a discussion about a particular type of vehicle that the sheriff's department wanted. And when it was brought back to my attention, the discussion I had with one of the department heads, why they needed that. It made sense when the sheriff brought it forward.
Sure.
But we had forgotten about the dynamics of why having a pickup truck in that department was, it seemed at the time that it was like, okay, we need a vehicle and there's a truck available, so we'll buy that. But there was actually a budget, and that comes from not having a written plan where we had put that on, and hence, I think I've shared with you, or at least in the MCCA meeting, I created a parking lot so that when somebody brings something up, it goes on the parking lot list. So in the future, we've at least documented that we have the discussion. We may not agree to something, but I think that parking lot is more respectful of the people who bring the idea up, so it doesn't just get lost in.
no, you're right. And, but again, you can fill the parking lot up really quick.
You can.
And as I've mentioned before, and I think another reason why we need to have these sort of conferences, like even what we're doing right now. There are a lot of day-to-day decisions that I feel very comfortable in making and information. So the parking lot list really is every 2 weeks is this. That's our parking lot list, and we try to move forward and make things happen. It's right. As I told others, well, they don't know what we do. Well, no, that's not their job.
That's not our job.
Your
That's
job
your
is to
job.
set policy, that's right, and to make sure that you support the guy that you have at the top. Otherwise, or gal, otherwise, why is that person there?
Yeah, that's one of the things I want to look at.
And that's the only way, that is the only way that we can get to the point where you really put a chair is the strategic plan. And, and I don't believe this is what you're talking about, but you can't have my position or any department head. You can't do it in a flow chart. Like, okay, here's my decision. If I go, yes, that all is up here, right, Danny? How many decisions do you make a day? Just like out of natural experience. And emphasize the fact that you're the boss, and I think that is one of the issues here. I think there is some,
Oh, yeah,
a
let
little
me get
bit
back
of
to
an issue
you.
here. Or a little bit of perception that, well, when Scott gets involved in things, he thinks he's the boss. So let's stop it right there. So I'm gonna ask you at the same time, I feel that I am the boss. And as representation of the three of you, And now I do answer to the three of you as well, but that's what I have to take into, but at the point in time during every other day that you're not here, when I'm the one that's sitting there to make the decision, then that does put me, or I am, if you don't like boss, I am the leader, I am the authoritative figure that should be here.
I would use this vernacular. I would say you are the administrator, which means we invested in you the authority to carry out the policy we set. If we haven't set the policy, it leaves you in a difficult position because you're trying to figure out what the policy should be.
But you can't policy everything, though. That's
No,
what nobody calls a flow chart,
you
you
can't.
can't, yeah.
But I guess
But,
using the vernacular that you were administrating the things that we said, and whether you like it or not,
right.
that's the role that you have accepted. And
There's a struggle still, there's still a struggle there with identifying me as being the leader and separating that from the commission and my position. I think county government overall struggles with that.
absolutely, I think that's
Yeah.
one of the big challenges that I'm trying to bring forward so that we have collective discussions, because I think each of you and your colleagues have certain skill sets and historical perspectives that even somebody like Dan, who's been here before, doesn't always fully understand, because he sat in the meeting where maybe you got a piece of it. I mean, the conversations we've had, I think the conversations that some of us have had with department heads helps us to understand why we've got to make some of the decisions that we did, i.e. using the technology that is now being incorporated in a number of departments. May cost us money, but in the long run, it makes sure that the system functions the way it has to in today's environment.
If it's used properly.
True.
You gotta have the know-how, and the organization has to be willing to use those tools, otherwise it's just another fancy saw in the box, and
Yeah.
we're still using handsaw, but in any event, okay? So that's kind of where I'm thinking with that.
I mean, I'm pleased with the manner in which you have embraced trying to within the departments and personally make some of the changes that are improving where we're going. I think that's helpful. It's still incumbent, I believe, on the three of us to give more clarity to the direction we want to go in.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, at this point, I think we've covered pretty much everything. Next Friday, next Wednesday.
We haven't done the warrants.
Warrants.
I know, but I'm just asking if either you gentlemen are planning to come over to Farmington. I can't.
Give me what was that question again?
Farmington.
Oh,
Next
yeah, I'm
Wednesday.
in Farmington,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
Well, on the ninth that morning, we
That was
got,
a week after, isn't it 2 weeks?
I've got the thing
No,
here.
wait.
How come we're meeting, not meeting in 2 weeks? I hope we
This
meet.
is,
Maine
what's the
County
date there, July,
It's,
No, but I know, but usually we would have met then
Oh,
2 weeks
on
from
the
there.
16th, yeah, we went to the 23rd.
we went to the 23rd because I have a conference I'm at, and Wednesday is my board meeting.
Oh,
So-
that's how we did it.
no, what are you talking, you switched from?
So
the
there's two
ninth.
things. So the 9th is the MCCA meeting
Yeah.
in person in Farmington.
I've got the 11 legislative policy and the 145 risk, and I'm gonna be there the night before,
Well,
and there was a
We-
golf tourney.
we've got,
No golf, no golf.
that's the convention. We have free to praise confirmation before the legislature that morning.
Oh, yeah, I know that, but I'm gonna, that's on the July 8th, right? Or is that on the 9th?
I'm pretty sure it's the night. The same day, July 9th, yeah. I have some paperwork.
No,
here.
I will be in Farmington at that time.
Okay,
You can submit testimony though. I think it's gonna be somewhat perfunctory because.
Oh, yeah, I know, so there's another,
Okay.
there's at least one or two others, being considered that day for, it is just, pro forma, actually.
he called me and I think he's headed down because he was concerned that if you lose the internet connection, that you get bounced out.
Yeah, you should.
And so he's going down, and I don't think he should go down alone, so, I can go down with him.
Yeah, I would be, that would be good, if you could go there,
Okay.
because I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna be down,
And then I'll swing over to Farmington.
okay.
We'll save lunch for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be good lunch. They've got a nice caterer.
Okay, I've gotta be, there's something going on the afternoon.
I gotta
like-
be in York County at 4:30, so, moving along. The
What
warrant,
time?
4:30.
You know, I told Troy, I says, I think Cushing's a drug dealer. I
So
think we're gonna find out he can
I'm
drug.
going to the York County Commissioners. I was at the Hancock County, it's all documented.
Oh, it
Anyway.
breaks on the 7 o'clock
Okay.
news.
At item O on our agenda, approval of warrants. Do I have an approval of warrants?
I move we approve the warrants under section O, for July 2nd to
And I have a
05.
second to that.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. At this point, do we have a need for an executive session?
Building,
Hold on.
no.
Okay.
No,
At this point then, seeing no more business before us, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Vote on myself. Thank you for the nice lunch. That was,
yeah, Mary Ann did,